We praise your holy name. We praise your holy name. In the holy way, with the steady way, in the humble way, we praise your holy name, Send down your blessings from above, send down your blessings from the heavens above, we praise your holy name,
Greetings. Greetings, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Opium Sabah, Uhuru, Salam, peace, and greetings. Thank you, everyone, for being here. We're very honored and pleased to have you with us today. Let's see. I am from the Leonard Peltier Ad Hoc Committee. I am also part of the National Jericho Movement. And we have a very packed program today to give you guys a lot of information on what's going on with Leonard. We have some amazing guest speakers for you all to listen to, and we are going to do our best to stay on task and on time. And with that being said, before we start, I'd like to welcome you all to join us in a call and response chant, activism style. And we'll start that right now. Drop the charges on the Uhuru 3. Free Leonard Peltier now.
Drop the charges on the
Uhuru 3.
Free Leonard Peltier now.
I said drop the charges on the Uhuru 3. Free Leonard Peltier now.
Drop the charges on the Uhuru 3. Free Leonard Peltier now.
One more time, y'all. Drop the charges on the Uhuru 3. Free Leonard Peltier now.
Drop the charges on the Uhuru 3.
Free Leonard Peltier now. Wow, just really want to appreciate that opening by Comrade Opium and that music by that we just heard by Pedro Crow Dog. And I just want to introduce myself. My name is Mwezi Odom, and I have the honor of co-chairing today's event with Comrade Opium. So as has been stated, it's a very exciting program. We have a packed agenda and, really want to use this opportunity to make the call for why we must, and it's so important that we must work to free this courageous anti-colonial indigenous freedom fighter, Leonard Peltier, who, as we know, has been locked up in these colonial dungeons for nearly 50 years. Defending his people on the Lakota reservation in the 1970s. And so we're really excited for today's program. And I want to, before we move any further, I want to actually turn it over to a very important and special guest that we have on here with us today. This is Lenny Foster. And Lenny, as you come up on screen, I'm going to take a moment to introduce you. So I just wanted to welcome you to today's meeting. Lenny Foster is Leonard Peltier's spiritual advisor and retired director of the Navajo Nation's Corrections Project. And in 1970, he was involved in the occupation of Alcatraz, and in 1972 in the Trail of Broken Treaties Caravan and the Bureau of Indian Affairs takeover in Washington, D.C. Lenny took part in the 71-day protest at Wounded Knee in 1973, and he participated in the longest walk, which is the 7-month journey from Alcatraz to Washington, D.C. And we're very honored on today. Lenny will be giving us the opening prayer. So I want to turn it over to you, Brother Lenny, and thank you again for being here with us. Uhuru. Oh, one more time. I see you're trying to unmute. Okay, try it one more time, Lenny. There you go.
Thank you. Yeah, la. Kia ane islam test ane was a chin topai das a che. And a gane das a null. But now be one strong. So for Beto Aro Yisanasha. Aro de Quita. Then the Peltier and Lady Bell says seen. They lay a while what's other. Just die by a star. Citizen and nail in there. Cut share. Not us sexual on citizen with tonight but the snow what all these they can be qua citizen Nhabe they sleep by Henson ka should ha the end youth the end to by the end hazoni ka Tata na sis not Jenny so to ko sleep the bench to the end on a cleany the cardo to does long on they call ben get seal ben get scare Aro ben janon si case in genata biate in he nabiate in he chats and biate yataskit jona the and Taradine ben janon Hanat kin Aro de kun citizen ebe I now de kun Leonard Peltier di Lisa Trati and Lanti and Yot 80 and Jopaiti and Hajoni in lay Turtle Mountain ban of Chippewa Kayato Ado now, wow, they come by in Lado, les bindi Juana Datan bindi Banatino, Eddie Kun, who want to go on Dasto, the eight don't wash chin, Vanilla Rasto, the eight and Johnny, Scott J, you do Yando, Das, out. What's that? And you know. What's it? And Oban Janoban City case on can hat the Abiat El Sadi Yat El Baid Yad Ole. Aro de con arto he kaigi. He con Dondo, Penny Do, Paulette Do, Ward Do, Jennifer Do, Opium Do. Arto, the last lat and long, they con change crazy than long, Adi con. What's it? It's citizen. Yat eho. Wahin daro lit. Ero de con Leonard Peltier. Yat eho de con but citizen. Edi sabe it. Iago, it's citizen. A slim badon nicht bin die Juana dasto lit. De con he kai. Ado sad yat it's citizen. A slim do lit. Shada now cost. Bears on the slate, bears on the slate, bears on the slate, bears on the slate. Who Matokiasi armor relations?
Miigwech.
Oh, I want to just express my appreciation for this afternoon's gathering to talk about our relative, our brother, Leonard Peltier. The prayer that I made is an ancient ceremonial prayer, blessing prayer in the Dene language. And then I asked the spirits from the east, the south, the west, the north, Mother Earth, Grandfather, and that the iron doors open, that he will have a path, the red road leading from Coleman 1, United States Penitentiary in Florida, all the way back to his homeland, his home territory in North Dakota. It belongs to the Turtle Mountain Band of Chippewas, one of the ancient native people in the Midwest. He's been incarcerated for 50 years, and we pray that the Spirit will answer our prayers, and that the words that we make today that are expressed by the people that have come to speak and participate. Our guest speaker, Ward Churchill, and attorney Jennifer Jones, and some of the others that I mentioned, Donna, Paulette, OPM, others that who don't know well that I've met in the past. Mike Kuzma. I see there's a name, Omalia, Chairman Omalia, and others that are here with us today. We appreciate your presence, that your medicine will lend to the freedom of Leonard Peltier and the others that will be discussed here, the political prisoners. And we appreciate this opportunity to gather like this and make medicine and prayers, songs. I witnessed the birth of Cooper when he was a baby, and Wounded Knee when he was born. So I was witness to that when they held his the baby up to the window when we were all asked to come to that trailer there in the Wounded Knee, where on the west side of the community. So I knew him that way, and then last time I saw him was when he came through Window Rock, Arizona, where I am presently living. I'm originally from Overpass, Arizona. I've been with the American Indian movement for over 50 years. I joined up with the Denver American Indian movement under the leadership of the late Vernon Belcourt in 1970. And I first met Leonard Peltier in Denver, Colorado, 1970 in the fall. And also I started visiting him upon a request from our comrade and sister Paulette. He asked that I visit Leonard and conduct prayers, pipe ceremonies, and sweat lodge ceremony for him at the USP Leavenworth, March 1985. And I sundanced with Leonard Peltier at Prodol in June 1975. So we know this Sundance. We know the sweat lodge ceremonies, the prayers and the songs, and we use the pipe. So that's how I know my brother. So I want to thank you. And it's a privilege and an honor to be among you today. I'm a townhouse clan born for Mountain Cove, and my maternal grandparents are River Edge Topaha, and my paternal grandparents are Navani, one who walks around. And like I said, I'm originally from Fort Defiance, Arizona, Dene. So I want to thank you that way. They say that when you say to your clan, the spirits understand who you are, and That's why it's very important that we take these teachings into the prisons. So I want to say about that much, and thank you again. Oh,
Wow.
Glitch. Oh,
Thank you so much, Brother Lenny
oh,
Foster. And yes, that was very powerful. And like you said, we're not in this fight alone. And no one's none of this is in vain. And I really want to appreciate your mentioning of, calling the Klan, our people, those who came before us. And we will free Leonard Peltier. And as you said, the red road leading out of USP men or Coleman one straight to his homeland, and that's and that is what we are fighting for on today. So thank you so much for opening this space with that prayer, and in that spirit, we're going to continue on in this program, and I want to already start to thank those who are already making contributions to the Leonard Peltier ad hoc committee. So this is just a great start, and I'm going to move our program now by welcoming up our next speaker. I want to welcome up Charlene Nijme, who is the chairwoman of the Muwekma Ohlone Nation. We're so happy that you are here with us on today, and I'm going to take a moment to introduce you. Charlene is from the Marine Sanchez lineage that descends from the first peoples of the San Francisco Bay Area. Her ancestors are direct descendants of those people brought into the mission system in Santa Clara, Mission San Jose, and Mission Dolores in San Francisco. Charlene is currently running for Congress in San Francisco, and so we have the honor to have her here with us today to make a land acknowledgement. So thank you, Chairwoman Charlene, for being here. Uhuru.
Thank you for having me, and it's a pleasure to meet you all. Porsche Tuhi, Kanakrakat, Charlene Nijme, Wetresh Mowekma Wulwulum, San Francisco Bay Area Tak. I say good day in our Chochenyo language. My name is Charlene Nijme, and I'm the chairwoman of the Muwekma Ohlone tribe of the San Francisco Bay Area. We are gathered within the ethno-historic tribal territory of the Yalamu, Aramai, Salsun, Lanshan, Ramayatush, San Francisco, Costa-Noan, Ohlone-speaking tribal groups of the San Francisco Peninsula, whom were intermarried with the Puchun, Tami, and Ohlone-speaking groups of the San Mateo and Santa Clara counties. These are the direct ancestors of the lineages enrolled in the Muwekma Ohlone tribe. My ancestors have stewarded the lands of the San Francisco Bay Area for over 10,000 years. And I am here today speaking to you only because of the determination, strength, and resilience and sacrifice of our leaders who protected us from the colonization and genocide that we all suffered at the hands of the Spanish and the Americans that came into California. And I want to talk a little bit, make a statement about our history and our current struggles as a tribe and how it's similar to Leonard Peltier's case, because this is a colonial design by the United States. Our tribe was federally recognized by Congress in the early 1900s, and our status was never terminated by Congress, but then rather fix an administrative error that kept us off the official list of recognized tribes in 1978. The federal government continues to ignore our evidence and chooses instead to politically erase us. Much in the same way they ignore the evidence from Leonard Peltier's innocence, choosing instead to politically justify his continued incarceration. This is an unjust and immoral imprisonment, and the world knows it. Just as Gandhi, Mandela, Dr. King, and others who fought for their liberation of their people, Leonard Peltier fought for the liberation of Indian country. Leonard Peltier has become so much of a symbol of the American Indian movement, and he reminds us all of the unfinished work and justice that has been too long delayed. Indigenous folks instinctively understand how Leonard's activism on behalf of the American Indian movement made him a target of the United States And that motivated the FBI to frame him for crimes that he did not commit, and on sovereign lands where the United States does not belong. Leonard has become a symbol of resistance against Western colonialism and the structural oppression that has been imposed on Indigenous communities throughout Turtle Island. He has come to symbolize that colonial project, which intends to imprison or kill those warriors among us who assert our sovereignty and who fight to defend our people. Leonard Peltier continues to be a political prisoner, and the American government refusal to open up the case and to declassify all of the government surveillance records of the American Indian movement tells us that his continued imprisonment is designed to send a message to Indian country and our next generation of activism. But that will never stop us. This generation is rising up more than ever, speaking truth to power, demanding justice for all peoples on Turtle Island and around the world. I want to mention later this year on August, the first week in August, my tribe and I plan to travel to Washington, D.C. by horseback to raise awareness of our decades-long struggle to be seen in the eyes of the federal government and to demand justice from Congress and this administration. When our caravan arrives in D.C., we plan to set up our camp on the lawn of the Capitol, where we will stay there throughout the federal elections in November. Leonard's legacy will be front of mind for us, and we will bring the fight of our people to Capitol Hill. Thank you for your time. Gishorche Kinan. My heart, my breath, and my spirit are with you all. Thank you so much.
Right on. Wow. Thank you so much, Chairwoman Charlene. And we just, for giving that land acknowledgement and, really profound statement on behalf of the Muwekma Ohlone Nation. And we will be there with you in November. I can say that for sure. So we just want to, say that right now, that is, that must happen. And, we are sending the message that we are still here and that we will fight back and we will free Leonard and we will free all the people and liberate the entire world from this colonial system. So really want to appreciate that so much for your statement. And just wanted to say too in the chat, there's just a lot of recognition and appreciation as well for both of our presenters, Lenny and Charlene. So we're gonna pull up a quick slide because I do want to take a moment to say why it was important for the Hands Off Uhuru, Hands Off Africa, campaign to adopt the Leonard Peltier case, the demand to free Leonard Peltier. And so I'm going to be giving a brief presentation about who we are, and then I'm going to turn it over to Comrade Penny Hess, who's going to, give us just an overview about Leonard Peltier. So everyone who is listening and who maybe does not know can have a chance to understand this fight back a little bit more. So I just, the first slide up is just, announcing today's event, which is really important. And again, I'm here on behalf of the Hands Off Uhuru, Hands Off Fight Back Coalition, which is a anti-colonial free speech movement to, bring all of the struggles that we are, fighting against, the struggle to free Leonard Peltier, the struggle to say, hands off Cuba, stop the, illegitimate, genocide against the people of Palestine. All of these, struggles must come under one banner and we must fight. So this is what this coalition is about. We are made up of over 40 organizations. This is just a partial list of who are some of the, supporters of the, next slide, of the Hands Off Uhuru Fight Back Coalition. And we want to encourage everybody to join this, coalition. This coalition was, initiated after the July 29 attacks on the African People's Socialist Party, which initiated the Hands Off Uhuru, and Uhuru means freedom. So the Hands Off Uhuru, Hands Off Africa Defense Campaign, and this is to stop the FBI attacks on the African People's Socialist Party. Two of our leaders, Omali Yeshitela and Deputy Chairwoman Onizine Yeshitela, were victims of these raids. And I want to salute these, courageous comrades for, all the work that they have done for us to be able to build something that is worth fighting for and worth defending. And in this vein, this is why we understand that the, oppression and the centuries of oppression and enslavement of African people cannot be even discussed without the enslavement of Africans on this land, as we are domestically colonized here within these borders of the United States. From Turtle, the entire Turtle Island, was ripped from the indigenous people. And, they were slaughtered here on this land. And that's why we adopt this case. And we want to salute also the Leonard Peltier Ad Hoc Committee. And I did want to say that as we talk about, political prisoners, we want to also, before we go any further, mention that on Wednesday, April 24th, is Mumia's 70th birthday, another longtime political prisoner who is, facing the, brunt in, in the most isolated and, genocidal, conditions in these colonial prisons. And we want to make sure that we can recognize Brother Mumia as well. And as we say, free them all. So again, on July 29th, the United States, government, launched these serious FBI attacks on the African People's Socialist Party and the Uhuru movement in 2 states. And, these were violent raids. 7 homes and properties were raided. They stole, property. They used flashbang grenades, battering rams, assault rifles. They stole, archives, and with no search warrant. And what this led to was members co-conspirators with the Russian conspiracy. This included Chairman Amalia Shatella, Akile Anayi, who is the media communications director for the African People's Socialist Party, as well as 2 members of the Solidarity Movement, Penny Hess and Jesse Neville. And it wasn't until 9 months later that the FBI decided to name 3 members of the Uhuru movement as indicted, on these bogus charges. And this is Amalia Shatella, Penny Hess, and Jesse Neville. And so this campaign to drop the charges on the Uhuru 3 is a case that we have to understand is an attack on the right of, free speech. And this impacts the future of free speech for us all. And we want to really, call on and appreciate everybody who has helped to build this campaign, building this anti-colonial free speech movement, because this, DOJ press release, or, this whole indictment has weaponized free speech. And to understand that, what is the purpose of free speech, as the chairman has said, if it's not a weapon to be used against, tyranny and oppression. And as we can see, our free speech, is being used against us to, silence us. And that's why we are here on today. This is a global movement. And this map shows how far we have reached. And this is why it's so important for us to be able to bring even the case of, especially the case of Leonard Peltier, to the world stage. So without further ado, I just want to say this is, how you can follow our campaign, and also want to remind everybody that in September, we are going to trial. We are taking and putting the United States government on trial for its crimes against the people. And we want to call on everybody to go to handsoffuhuru.org/trial to learn more. So, before we wrap up this part and I turn it over to Comrade Penny, I want to remind everybody that we have a goal to raise resources. We have to be able to raise the resources to help, support Leonard's case, as well as his, healthcare needs, which are deteriorating day by day. And so we want everybody to go to freeleonardpeltiernow.org/donate, where you can make a donation on the website, or go to Cash App, $Peltier Official Com, like COMM. And we have a goal of raising $3,000 on today. And I want to appreciate those who have already made their donations. So that information will be in the chat, and we'll make sure that you can, get that information throughout the program. So I'm going to turn it back to, thank you so much, comrades. I'm going to turn it back to, or turn it over to Penny Hess, who will lead us through another brief overview about Comrade Leonard Peltier. Uhuru.
Uhuru, thank you so much, Chairman Wazy. And I just want to say, if they can bring, okay, thank you. And it is an honor to be here today. I want to salute the leaders that we have had the honor of hearing today, and all of the speakers today. And I also want to salute my leadership, Chairman Amalia Shatella, who has fought his entire life for the liberation of Africa and African people and all oppressed peoples on this planet. So we wanted to give a little bit of an overview on who Leonard Peltier is. There may be people who don't know that much about it, and it's really critical to know about this important case. Next slide. Yes, and so we're calling on this government to release the Leonard Peltier in the spirit of Indigenous resistance, and we salute the members of the official Leonard Peltier Ad Hoc Committee. Next slide. And we recognize the genocide that the US government carried out against the Indigenous people as part of the theft of Indigenous land, which we all sit on today. And we recognize in particular that in 1890, the US government massacred at least 200 Lakota people as part of that genocide. Next slide. The period of African and Indigenous and other anti-colonial struggles around the world in the 1960s was a time of Black power, of red power, of the struggle for power in the hands of the oppressed and the return of their stolen resources and land. Next slide. This was the period that the powerful American Indian movement was built, and these are some of the founders and leaders. Next slide. And we wanted to show from the powerful film Warrior just a few clips of that. We want everybody, we were going to have Susie Bear, who is the director or producer of that incredible film, on today. The film about Leonard Peltier and his life. And it is available on YouTube. If you haven't seen it, you must watch it. So we're going to start with this clip, this very brief clip of Leonard Peltier speaking.
During that period, there was a number of different reasons that caused me to get involved and join the American Indian movement. At that time, there was an elderly man named Raymond Yellow Thunder that was a ranch hand in Gordon, Nebraska, which is right on the border of the Pine Ridge, Ogallala Lakota Nation. And he had come to town like he did all the time. Well, he'd go out there to the ranch, stay out there 3-4 months, come into town. He would give his money to his sisters, who would pay their bills. He supported them, right? And he would, whatever he had left, he would buy some clothes and he would drink it up, you know. And he was picked up by, I believe it was 3 young men and one girl. They had first humiliated him by stripping all of his clothes off him and throwing. They were having a dance that night at the American Legion, and threw him inside of that dance hall naked. And the mayor that was there and the chief of police put a blanket on him and told him to get back to the ranch, or they all knew him around there, right? Or they would arrest him and stuff like this, right? Well, a short time later, Raymond was observed being forced in a car again by these same young people, right? And the following day, his body was found with cigarette burns and other means of torture, and he was dead.
Uhuru, next slide.
When we seen that they weren't going to do nothing but just let another murder go by, pass, without anybody being arrested.
The Hare brothers, the very same thing, when they killed Yellow Thunder. Now, we went to Washington, D.C. and demanded that it be a federal crime to kill Indian people. And they said no. And so when a white man hunts down an Indian, takes 2 days to plan it, and hunts him down and brags about it.
Again, to slap the Indian people in the face. The older guy got 2 years in prison, but the other 2 got probation.
Uhuru, next slide.
Put your hands down in front of you.
Uhuru, yeah, so that was part of the anti-colonial resistance on the Pine Ridge Reservation after the murder that was spoken about here, the just really powerful resistance for which the FBI and US colonial forces invaded the Lakota people's land. Next slide. So as was said, in 1972, Raymond Yellow Thunder was tortured and murdered by a group of white people. The white murderers did not pay a price. Next slide. And so February 27th, 1973, after 300 years of colonial genocide and violence, American Indian movement and 200 indigenous nations came together to reclaim their stolen land at the site of the Wounded Knee Massacre of 1890 in defiance of the neo-colonial leadership at that time of the Lakota Nation. And yes, and just to say, Leonard Peltier's spiritual advisor, who we just heard a little bit earlier, is one of the people sitting on the roof in this picture. And next slide, the US colonial military and FBI assaulted the indigenous people, but the resistance stayed strong for 71 days. They basically had power over their lives and over their community, led by the American Indian movement during that struggle. The US sent 35 tanks, next slide, brought in to fire on the people. 2 American Indians lost their lives. One is listed as missing. I'm sorry. Actually, I thought it was more than that. I thought it was about 60 people, but I might be wrong on that. Next slide. The 3 years following the Wounded Knee occupation were known as the Reign of Terror. There were hundreds of brutal assaults, over 60 murders by the FBI-backed goon squad. And when you try to break a people, you take what is precious. People woke to find their dogs and horses dead. Just really brutal conditions imposed by the colonial government as part of the ongoing theft of indigenous people's land. So next slide. On June 16th, 1975, there was an attack on the reservation in which 2 FBI agents and an American Indian, Joe Stuntz, were killed. Fabricated charges were brought against Leonard Peltier and 2 others without any evidence. Next slide. Leonard was arrested and tried in 1977, sentenced to 2 life sentences on false charges, while his co-defendants were acquitted by reason of self-defense. All evidence has been proven to be fabricated. Nevertheless, Leonard is serving 2 life sentences and has been in prison almost 50 years. Next slide. So we say today, Leonard Peltier has hundreds of thousands of supporters around the world. We must put the pressure on this colonial government and free Leonard Peltier now, not one more day. Uhuru.
Uhuru. Uhuru. Yes, not one more year. Free Leonard Peltier. Free Leonard Peltier now, not one more year. Uhuru. Let me see here. I think co-MC Uhuru OPM, I see you on there with me. Thank you so much, Penny, for that overview. And I really hope that mobilizes people to to make contributions to this cause. As we said, we have a goal of raising $3,000 on today to be able to raise the resources to help beat this case. Thank you so much for Leonard Peltier. And I want to also repeat the website where you can donate. This is if you go to freeleonardpeltiernow.org/donate, where you can make a contribution, or if you use Cash App, that's $Peltier Official, COMM. So again, that's how you can contribute, and you'll get that information on the chat, and it's here for you up on the screen. Did you want to add anything, OPM, before we move on? I just wanted to check in with you, Uhuru.
No, well, I just wanted to acknowledge and to thank all the speakers that we've had thus far. Penny with the Uhuru movement, Mr. Lenny Foster, Chairwoman Charlene. We're very honored to have you all here with us today. And thank you to all the participants who are in this event. There's about 62 people. So thank you, all of you, for being here with us today. And as has been said a couple times, we do have a goal of raising $3,000 for Leonard's very needed medical care, and for his legal team to keep doing what they're doing so that we can finally get Leonard out of jail and, you know, back at home and with his family. And I did want to just briefly just give a shout out to some of the people who have already donated. And, you know, there's no minimum. Every dollar counts and is very much appreciated. And so Franklin donated $40. Joan donated $10. Leah donated $50. Penny donated $10. Franklin donated $80. Then Penny did $100. Mike also donated $100. Paul donated $25, and Mark donated $10, and that puts us at about 415 raised so far. And we only have 25.85 left. So I greatly encourage everyone in all of the participants in this event right now. Even if it's $5, it's greatly appreciated and goes directly to help Leonard with his medical care and with his legal team. So thank you, everyone, for being here and for donating and, you know, making your own choice to stand up for Leonard and for the resistance that he represents, and, you know, his basic care of not only natives, but of human beings, period, you know, across the board. So I know he's very grateful, as are the Leonard Peltier Ad Hoc Committee and the Uhuru movement.
Great. Yes, right on. Thank you. I'm really glad that you took a moment to thank our donors, OPM, because we have some more donations that have come in. And I actually wanted to correct Penny's donation is $100. That's total. So I wanted to thank you for, you know, chat moderators or calculators for correcting that. And to also thank Marilyn, who made a $42 donation. So thank you so much, Marilyn. So that takes us now to our new total is $25,543 left to go. We have raised so far 457. So let's keep this going, and we will make sure that we thank our donors during the appeal later on in our program. So before we move on, you know, we wanted to really take a moment to appreciate this submission on today's program. This is a video that we're going to hear. This is a poem by about Leonard and Mumia Abu-Jamal. This is written by Julia Wright, and we're very honored to have these powerful poems read in this recording by Julia Wright, who is a longtime powerful force of the African liberation movement. She's the daughter of Richard Wright and one of the greatest authors of all time. And Julia is based in France, and we want to thank attorney Jennifer Jones for connecting us with Julia. This is a great honor. So we're going to go ahead and roll that clip. Uhuru.
This is in the spirit of Mumia's consciousness without borders, and in the spirit of Leonard's crazy horse. Is unity like ghosts? Is unity like those ghosts much talked about but less seen? Pam Africa says, if you just sit back and wait on a bench for unity to manifest without doing anything, you will turn into a skeleton. Janine Africa says, it is time we close our separate fingers into a fist. In Africa, back in the 70s, Amilcar Cabral, Agostinho Neto, and Samora Machel formed a united front against the colonialist onslaught of NATO. Early this year, Niger, Mali, and Burkina Faso formed a radical Pan-African federation against neocolonialism in the Sahel. Here in the belly of the beast, our unity exercises have already begun. Unity starts daily with the gentle yoga of Tortuguita, grounding our resolve, placing us in sync with Wiloni Forest and the Mother Earth we all live on. Unity is replying to a mere awkward email from a neophyte, if only with the emoji of Refat Al-Arir's kite. Unity is doing away with the slow to respond automated mode of digital response, because then a single worker ant will not be forgotten or trampled on. Unity is allowing others to finish the story we began. Unity is suspending the judgment of our arrogant gavels and the leftovers of COINTELPRO gossip, if we can. Unity is trying to eschew all the traits mirroring narcissist corporatism, the need of a red carpet for the Oscars of abolition, the craving of fast-speaking mics, the giving in to infighting, the rivalry of the leftier than thou. Unity is to take the time to stop next to the fallen, even if that means I am left behind. Unity welcomes the elders of the movement, those who near ancestorship are considered the true bearers of the history our oppressors would take from us, just as they stole our land. Unity is meaningless without the children of the movement, the salt of our earth, those who are already receiving our living will. Unity is the womb of the unborn. Unity includes taking time and creating collective rights to mourn. Unity honors the mud of the trenches, the discomfort zone of contradictions, as much as the trumpets of self-satisfaction and victories often claimed too soon. Unity is loving all our comrades to bits and putting those bits together again. Unity is the most difficult of our challenges, a labor of love supreme for the people, always repeated, never completed. But revolutionary unity is the only antidote we know against the cancer betraying our political prisoners, Mumia, Leonard, Kamau, Veronza, Jamil Al-Amin, and to honor Asata's message, all those we will save a long time, a long, long time before it is their turn to go. For the families of Leonard Peltier and Mumia Abu Jamal, Precious, the granddaughter of Leonard Peltier, needs more funds for his sister's funeral because the winter ground is frozen. Isa, the oldest son of Mumia and his lost Wadia, lets us know that his ailing father bears the scars of the inability to mourn the love of his life behind bars. It is winter, winter of the soul. The ground is frozen, but Mumia's skin is itching and on fire and weeping all its unshed tears. If we write to him, his contactless skin will touch the spirit of our thoughts and the paper of nature's trees. It is winter, winter of the soul. The skin of Mother Earth is frozen, but all the candles lit for Leonard's sister Linda and the warmth pouring from our hearts will melt the ice of white supremacy, and even in its sub-zero love, grow the garden of a gentle, sacred grave.
Beautiful. Uhuru. So just what you have, those of you who are just joining us or who just need a reminder, that was Julia Wright, author and longtime powerful force in the African liberation movement, and also daughter of Richard Wright, who wrote us this, who read to us this poem on behalf of and in the honor of Leonard Peltier and Mumia Abu-Jamal. So I really want to just appreciate that poem on unity. And as we say, the highest expression of unity is through organization, and that's why we are here on today, to be able to really make a serious fight back to free Leonard Peltier. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Comrade OPM, so we can introduce our next speaker on today's program, which is titled, I don't think I said that. This is today's program is titled Leonard Peltier, The Case of Leonard Peltier, Why Our Liberty is Bound to His. And so I wanted to make sure that we could make that mention. So Uhuru, Comrade.
Yes, thank you. Thank you to everyone joining us, and to those of you who may just have joined us. And yes, thank you to Julia Wright. What a inspiring and moving poem that is. And just wanted to say, to free Mumia Abu-Jamal, free Leonard Peltier, and free all political prisoners. So with that being said, we have a very special guest speaker up next for you, Mr. Ward Churchill. Ward is a revolutionary professor, a renowned speaker, and esteemed author of numerous books about the genocide, history, and struggles of indigenous people. He is also an expert on the U.S. government's COINTELPRO program that targeted the Black and indigenous liberation movements of the 1960s and 70s in this country. So without further ado, let's get Ward up on the screen, and thank you for being here with us today, sir.
It is my pleasure to be here. Not my pleasure for the reasons that we are here, but these gatherings, this unity, this strength can only be encouraging to all of us. Oh, Leonard Peltier and the significance of his case, the historical background, which is what I've been requested to address today. You could really take that back to 1492. You could take that back to 1450 with the Portuguese going down the coast of Africa and initiating slave trade there. We haven't time for that. We haven't time to really thoroughly cover many aspects of the case. But we could say it begins with the 1851 Fort Laramie Treaty, which demarcated indigenous territory to the satisfaction of the United States for the entire Great Plains area. And that was undertaken by the U.S. primarily so they would not be engaging in hostilities against wrong parties, okay? To the settler population, seen one Indian, seen them all, okay? A Cheyenne, a Lakota, a Kiowa, a Comanche, a Crow, a Pawnee, possible exception of the Pawnee because they had different haircuts, but basically they were all interchangeable. So if there was hostility between migrant settlers moving into the Plains region and a group of Indians. It was a matter of confusion, but a matter of disregard as well, which Indians were attacked in response by the U.S. military or by white militia groups. They weren't all official military, although the militias were always drawn upon by the official military in order to serve as force amplifiers. So the 1851 treaty, from the U.S. perspective, served to identify who the attackers were. That wasn't always true either, because Indians did not conduct a relationship with the land in accordance with these boundary lines that are preferred by whites. But that's the way it was from the white perspective. From the indigenous perspective, it acknowledged the general geographic areas in which indigenous peoples had established their lifeways, contested their national existence. So this is fundamental, that this area surrounding the Black Hills, essentially from the Missouri River over to the Bighorn Mountains, following the Missouri north and cutting off really at the Heart River, and down into Nebraska following the line of the Platte. All of that was Lakota territory. Well, that's 1851. In the 1860s, in the aftermath of the war between the U.S. states, the so-called Civil War, silver was discovered in Montana, and it was determined, in geographic sense, that it was much shorter to just cut a line. They called it the Bozeman Trail, at an angle northwest from Fort Laramie through Wyoming, present-day Wyoming, to get there. Well, that's just cutting right through prime buffalo graze Lakota territory, understood as such, which precipitates Red Cloud's War, and that's a war where Crazy Horse emerges as a prominent figure, very, very talented fighter. The United States did not lose its first war in Vietnam, as it's become customary to say. They lost it along the Bozeman Trail in Red Cloud's War. Red Cloud was the Oglala leader who had organized all the 7 major bands of Lakotas, Cheyennes, Arapahoes into a combined force to lay siege to the military posts, supposedly securing the wagon route. Administered a major defeat at Fort Phil Kearny to Fetterman, Captain Fetterman, who had famously said, "Give me 90 men and I'll ride through the whole Sioux nation." Sioux is a disparaging term in a way. Well, not just in a way, it's a disparaging term applied to Lakotas, Nakotas, and Dakotas as well, more easterly formations. Yeah, well, he had 93 men when he crossed what was called Lodgepole Ridge, setting out to rout some Indians who had provoked his response, and there were no survivors. After that, the United States essentially sues for peace, abandons the posts and the route. Each post was burned as the troops left. All right. That creates the 1868 Fort Laramie Treaty, where it was determined that there would be no cessions of land by the Lakota or the Cheyenne or the Arapahoes, but principally the Lakota, from any point from the east bank of the Missouri River, meaning that the Missouri River is part of the Great Sioux Nation, westward to the present boundary line between South Dakota and Wyoming. north of the Heart River. That's basically the 1851 demarcation in the north. And from the boundary line between Nebraska and South Dakota in the south, everything to the Platte would remain a hunting territory. Okay, a hunting territory so long as there was game sufficient to warrant the chase. As to the land in Wyoming, west of the Bighorn Mountains, the Black Hills, over to the Bighorn Mountains, that was declared to be unceded Indian territory. It was understood to be part of the land secured for Cheyenne, Arapaho, and Lakota. But other Indians could arguably make, like Crows, for example, could make case. That's 1868, the U.S. surrender, essentially. 1874, George Armstrong Custer, lieutenant colonel, not general. He was a brevet general during the war. The war had been over for a decade, really, by that point. He was a lieutenant colonel in charge of the 7th Cavalry, led an expedition to investigate reports of gold in the Black Hills. Gold was found in the Black Hills. How legitimately, I don't know. Custer doubled as a journalist, wrote newspaper articles that glorified his role in things. He wrote also an autobiography, My Life in the Plains. He's big on this. He was effusive in describing gold at the grassroots in the Black Hills. And there was plenty of gold in the Black Hills, not exactly at the grassroots. Homestake Mine, for example, went down well over a mile digging gold the whole time. That was the Hearst thing. But basically, major violation of the indigenous understanding of the 1868 treaty. And the U.S. sent a commission out to attempt to acquire the Black Hills themselves from the Lakota. This was rejected, at which point affairs with the Lakota were transferred from the Interior Department of the United States to the War Department, and a major military campaign was prepared to subdue, was I think the term used, any Indians who had not reported to the agency, at what is the Red Cloud Agency, as it's called, present-day Pine Ridge, by a date in January of 1876, when, even if they'd been inclined to do so, there were heavy blizzards making any kind of travel across the plains virtually impossible. So, it's anything but clear on the record how many Lakotas, which groups of Lakotas would have come in order to be considered peaceful Indians. Everybody else, although they were operating well within their rights according to the treaty, was declared to be hostile, at war with the United States. And this springs in the springtime, this triangulation, columns coming in from 3 directions. And you got column coming from the south from Fort Laramie, a column coming from Fort Abraham Lincoln in North Dakota, and another column coming in from Montana, the smaller of the 3. The first encounters the reality of how many Indians had decided they did not want to accept the terms of the United States, and had gathered for a great council meeting in the Powder River country of Montana. So General Crook at the Rosebud Creek is soundly defeated. Now, it's a major military unit. It's not talked about a lot because of what follows rather quickly. Crook is defeated and proceeds in full retreat back towards Fort Laramie. Custer is detached from the northern column that has come over from Fort Abraham Lincoln and is told to run reconnaissance, locate the Indians, but not under any circumstances to attack. And he said, you know, I won't. What exactly he was saying he wouldn't do is unclear in any event. What he did was attack what he thought was a much smaller encampment of Lakotas primarily, but again, Cheyennes and Arapahoes as well, along the greasy grass, as indigenous people call it, Little Bighorn Valley, and divided his already under strength for the contest he was preparing to engage in regiment into three parts. The part that was with him was to be the main attack force. Yeah, well, there were no survivors from that. Custer's Last Stand, the famous engagement in June of 1876. There was another major combat component under his second command, Major Marcus Reno, and there were numerous survivors from that one, but it was very badly mauled, essentially simultaneous to the Custer fight on Custer Hill, as it's now named. And then you got this third 100-man unit, Benteen, that had been sent out to block the surviving Indians from escaping, that essentially saw no combat until they, runners from Reno got to him and said, hey, come back really quick. Okay. It was during a winter campaign following year that the conditions were imposed by the military that caused the Crazy Horse people, Dull Lines people, others to come in and essentially say that they would not fight with the U.S. anymore.
2 minutes, Ward.
Okay, then you have the assassination of Crazy Horse. And then you have the ghost dance, the belief that dancing in a certain ritual form would bring back the conditions that had prevailed before the major white invasion had begun in that area. And then that precipitates the massacre at Wounded Knee. And the number there that was given earlier, I think, is probably low. Most sources would agree it's 300, 350. They were bodies strung out for 2-3 miles that they had tracked down. And we're talking women, children, old people, tracked them down and killed them all insofar as was possible. That was the 7th Cavalry, by the way, reconstituted, getting even for Custer. And that sentiment has continued on through today. And the motives served by that sentiment are maintained on today. The Lakota, beginning less than 20 years after the Wounded Knee Massacre, became the first recognized indigenous people when I say recognized, I'm saying recognized as such by the federal government. The first indigenous people to attempt to file official legal claims against the United States for taking their land. The Black Hills were stripped away in 1877, and then you got proceedings under the Homestead Act and others that broke the Great Sioux Nation down to the present complex of reservations: the Cheyenne River, Standing Rock, Crow-Keek, Yankton, Rosebud, Pine Ridge, All right. Appreciable land base. Pine Ridge, I think, still is the second largest reservation in the country, but they've been gnawing away at things, both in terms of land through leasing and jurisdictional issues ever since. When we get to Leonard Peltier, well, you got traditionals who are pushing for recovery of the Black Hills, but mostly you got people who are flatly opposed to transfer of any more indigenous land from Pine Ridge in particular to the federal government. And this pertains to the so-called gunnery range, the northwest 1/8 of the reservation, which had been taken for aerial gunnery practice or training purposes in 1942 for World War II. And the Indians understood that the land was to be returned when the war ended. That, in my understanding, was 1945. When we get into 1965, it's been a while, and the people lost their homes. They were pushed, removed, shoved out, no place to go often to serve this U.S. interest. But the U.S. follows a general rule that once Indian land leaves Indian occupancy for any reason, once it moves, it's gone. It never comes back. And it was discovered later that the U.S. believed there was a significant uranium deposit in the gunnery range, which is the reason why they were looking to make it a permanent shift. That was not all understood at the time. This is coming out later. Now nobody wants to talk about the uranium or the molybdenum in a gunnery range that was reported in the early 1970s at all. That just drops out of the discussion by the 80s for reasons which are not entirely clear to me. But this sets up the conditions under which the United States implements the rural version of what had been around in one form after another under the codename Plan White. And the particular plan that was implemented was something called Garden Plot, which had been formulated for the government of the state of California when Ronald Reagan was governor by a former Army officer who had done his thesis on this at the Army War College, which was to bring military, police, local, and municipal and patriotic organizations, as he described them, together in times of social emergency, is the way they put it. Yeah, well, that's exactly what they did on Pine Ridge. They mounted a counterinsurgency war on domestic terms, domestic in the sense of U.S. claims to property.
Right.
And the Indians, after the siege at Wounded Knee, learned rather bitter experience that either they would stand down or they would be killed. And you had about 70 unresolved murders, well, close to 70 unresolved murders of AIM members and supporters in the 3 years following Wounded Knee. You had massive trials and all the rest of that. And the culmination is one day from the anniversary of Custer getting taught his etiquette lesson, the two agents go in at the jumping boat property. Yeah, and that's what it is that Leonard Peltier is in prison for now. Although, as has been said, and accurately so, every bit of evidence entered into trial against him has been shown to be fabricated, and the charge of which he was convicted has been changed. To the best I can tell, he was convicted of murder, according to the argument presented at the end of his trial, murder of each of the agents. according to the closing argument of Lynn Crooks, who later, when he can't demonstrate that Leonard was actually guilty of murder, says, well, it doesn't matter because he was convicted of aiding and abetting in the murder. All right. And the supervisor of prosecutors at the time has also subsequently said that the government never proved Leonard Peltier committed any crime. Nonetheless, he remains in prison.
Exactly. And I think I just really want to appreciate that, Professor Warden. I didn't want to, cut you off just even sooner, because just like you were saying, getting into talking about the significance of this case,
Yeah.
happening on the colonial, on this colonial assault on Indigenous land. And I know that, and I really hope that you will stay with us, Professor Churchill, because, there's some questions, that you've raised even in this, in your presentation, that I think would be, part of a really rich discussion. Although we may not have much time to go deep, but I do think that we have to continue to introduce these questions, and, the conditions, that, birth this righteous resistance, but that also made it possible for this assault to actually be carried out. But Leonard is still here. And so they have not succeeded. And in fact, we will win. So I don't, I know we do have to move it. I'm getting, I know that we have speakers that are not going to be here, but we, do you want to continue?
Let me close by saying this.
Yes, please, Ward. Thank you.
Everything that was on the table at the time of Leonard's conviction remains on the table, in the sense that the U.S. retains Plan White, as it was called, from the Pentagon, Garden Plot, as it was called in civilian sectors, really overlapping similar questions of command primarily. And you could see that in the raids that occurred on the Uhuru facilities in St. Louis and elsewhere. There's a number of other examples that could be cited. But Leonard's case ties into an exercise cable splicer, another scenario written by Giuffrida, okay, for mounting counterinsurgency in the urban context. And there you get to the Black Liberation Movement and the confluence between the two. Leonard should have been out on parole, even assuming he was guilty, which he clearly is not, even according to the federal officials most directly involved. But it has to do with death by incarceration. We understand the assassinations of Fred Hampton. We understand the assassination of Bunchy Carter and others. Dead is dead. But when they sentence people to eternity in prison, and we've had over the past 2 years a succession of major political targets from the Black Liberation Movement die either in prison, like Chip Fitzgerald, or in this compassionate image program that the BOP has initiated, dying within 3 months of the time that they finally are released, often decades after they should have been back on the street, assuming they should have gone to prison at all in the first place, which is a faulty assumption. All right. That is current events. You understand the history to understand the current. And if we don't have unity, in the face of the peril presented by this, then unity is a term that has no meaning. It's everybody's interest to respond. And it's in everybody's interest to get Leonard out. It's in everybody's interest to get Mumia out, and so on. So, but call things by their right name. This is not excessive police work. This is not rogue agents. This is not an aberrant case. This is not, it is a policy. It is a structure. It is a system that we must confront and demolish. And with that, I'll stop talking for the moment. Sorry for using too much time.
For the moment. Yes, only for the moment, Ward. And yes, free Leonard Peltier now. Thank you so much. There is just a lot of appreciation in the chat, Professor Churchill. So I hope you can take a moment to receive that as well. And you know, this is really important as we introduce our next speaker, because we're going to be talking about the case itself. We're going to be hearing from two of the attorneys. And so that's just a great segue. Thank you so much, Professor Churchill, and all of our presenters so far. Before I turn it to you, Comrade Opium, to introduce our next speakers, I want to just remind everybody to donate to today's cause. We have a goal of raising $3,000 towards the legal, you know, towards the defense for Leonard Peltier, as well as for his legal for his healthcare. I'm sorry. And I wanted to thank those who have been donating thus far. So far, we have raised 2,400. Sorry, let me see here. We have raised total $982. So we're going to take a moment to thank our speakers, but that leaves $2,018 left to go. So if you have $18, go ahead and just put that in right now, so we can be, you know, 1/3 of the way towards our goal. So I just wanted to say, go to freeleonardpeltiernow.org/donate. Again, that's freeleonardpeltiernow.org/donate, or on Cash App using $Peltier Official COMM. So thank you so much, and I'll turn it to you. I'll kick it back to you, Opium. Uhuru.
Thank you. Once again, thank you to everyone joining us today. Thank you so much for all of that, Ward. And yeah, there's a lot of gratitude and appreciation going out to the history and everything you were speaking on. And just very quickly, I just wanted to kind of make the point and remind everyone that, you know, this should be a very cold, hard fact to all of us of the lengths that the FBI, the U.S. government, and that the powers that be will go to silence people who are using their voice and who are showing resistance, and ultimately bringing people together and unifying them, because that is what they dearly fear and are scared of. They do not want us as a people to be unified, you know, amongst our own cultures, or even more so, unifying many different races and cultures together to say, you know what, this isn't right, and we're going to stand up against this, and we're going to say something, and we're going to fight back to it. So with that being said, our next guest is also a very important speaker and guest, Jennifer Jones. She is Leonard Peltier's lead attorney, who is working tirelessly to free Leonard Peltier from nearly 15 years of unjust imprisonment in the colonial prison system. And I've personally had the honor of working with Jennifer a lot amongst the ad hoc committee. So thank you for being here with us, Jennifer, and I'll kick it over to you.
Thank you, Opium. Uhuru, greetings and gratitude to all of you today. Today has been so rich. It's good to be in community with all of you. To chairpersons Yeshitela, Odom, Hess, and Neville, thank you for your deep camaraderie and solidarity with Leonard and the ad hoc committee. Your support is a source of strength, of inspiration, and demonstrates the kind of alignment we need in our struggle against colonialism. A special thanks to Sister Julia Wright for her poems dedicated to Leonard and Mumia, and for her significant contributions to human rights and humanities more broadly. And thank you, all of you today, for your support and your words of encouragement, which fuel our hearts and our spirits, so thank you. And last but not least, the ad hoc committee, we are deeply grateful for your support, for your advocacy of Leonard, and for your willingness and your commitment to ensure that he is not silenced. That will go down in history as something that has been significant in bringing us to this point. I am sure you all feel it. I do too. Change is in the air, and we hope that change will come in 2024 for Leonard. And everything you can expect this year about pursuing Leonard's release, like parole, is well underway. I said at the beginning of this year that we will not give up the fight, and we are vigorously working for Leonard's freedom. And I am so glad to be in the fight with my co-counsel, attorneys Maura Meltzer-Cohen, Michael Kuzma, and Audrey Bompsey. So we hope that our work can help set Leonard on that red road that Lenny spoke about earlier. But I'm sure you all have heard about Leonard's current medical condition. It is imperative for quality of life and for release efforts that meaningful, appropriate medical care, meeting the standard of care, be provided to Leonard. Leonard is experiencing intermittent blindness due to a potentially life-threatening condition, and he has received absolutely no meaningful treatment for that condition. In fact, because we are so concerned about Leonard, I sent an independent physician to speak with him, and that is the only time, to my knowledge, that Leonard has really been able to consult with a qualified doctor about this. Leonard is nearly 80 years old and has been incarcerated, as you heard, in federal prison for 48 years related to a crime he did not commit. He is an elder with serious medical issues, including a heart condition, kidney disease, diabetes, high blood pressure, degenerative joint disease, painful injuries to his jaw, and recent vision loss. Each of these conditions requires immediate and ongoing medical care. However, the Bureau of Prisons is not properly addressing Leonard's medical issues. Leonard needs to see an eye specialist without further delay and receive medical treatments for all of his other ailments. Medical professionals have already determined that USP Coleman 1, which is a maximum security prison on persistent extreme lockdown, most of the time now 24 hours a day, they cannot adequately meet Leonard's medical needs. This neglect puts him at a serious risk of harm, and as spoken about today, amounts to death by incarceration. For instance, Leonard has been prescribed a CPAP machine by the prison, but no electrical outlet is provided to him to plug it in. This is unacceptable. Because USP Coleman 1 is now on 24-hour per day lockdown, this means that Leonard cannot exercise to the extent that he can, and is served peanut butter and jelly and bologna sandwiches, which is a very poor quality of life for anyone, let alone an elderly man with diabetes and other conditions that require a healthy diet and moderate exercise. So we have asked prison officials to immediately transfer Leonard to one of their medical facilities that is designed to treat chronic and serious illness, of course, pending his release. We have also asked prison officials to provide a reasonable accommodation to Leonard for all of his conditions, something which is mandated by disability provisions while they process Leonard's transfer request. Yet unsurprisingly, though unfortunately, they have still not provided Leonard with medical care, though their own medical personnel have indicated the seriousness of Leonard's medical complaints and the immediate need for follow-up. If the prison cannot take care of persons they hold in their custody, involuntary custody, and it is clear that they cannot, then they need to let Leonard go for a host of reasons. To be clear, the denial of medical care to prisoners not only violates the 8th Amendment to the US Constitution's prohibition against cruel and unusual punishment and domestic disability provisions, it also violates the Convention Against Torture and the spirit of the Mandela Rules on the treatment of prisoners. So for this reason, we have launched the Whole World is Watching Free Leonard Peltier, an international initiative. We filed a request for communications with the United Nations Special Rapporteur on Torture and the United Nations Special Procedures Group, asking for communications to the United States regarding the denial of urgently needed medical care and an immediate investigation of the abuses and human rights violations habitually taking place in the nation's prisons. There are other pieces of international advocacy that are coming out as well, so please stay tuned. So as you can imagine, we are doing a lot of work, and there is still more work ahead. But what we will do when the eventuality of our victory has transpired, when the systemic evil is overcome by the good of the people, people like you, we will, as Sister Julia says, love each other to bits, and we will build those bits into bricks to build a nation where Leonard and all people like him can truly be free. Not one more year for Leonard Peltier. Free them all. Thank you again. Uhuru.
Uhuru. Thank you so much, Attorney Jennifer Jones, for that just really profound statement. And yeah, there's just a lot of appreciation in the chat. And it's like you said, just wanted to join you in saluting the legal team, in this fight back, and, in this really historic, struggle to free Leonard Peltier, and, using our skills in this fight. And it's just really profound to have you a part of this fight back and to work alongside you, comrades. So thank you. And I'm going to, yes, turn it back to Opium to introduce our next attorney.
Thank you, comrade. Thank you, Jennifer, for updating us on all of that. And I just wanted to speak to the fact very quickly about the dire need that that Leonard is in, and the situation and the reality of that situation. And with that being said, the donations are in great need right now, so that we can do what we need to do for Leonard, to get him out and to get him the medical care that he deserves and that he should be getting. So once again, the info should be in the chat. Our goal is $3,000. You can go to freeleonardpeltiernow.org/donate. Or you can also do it on Cash App, and the cash tag, which is the money symbol. I believe. Do you know the exact cash tag?
Yes, the cash sign or cash tag Peltier Official COMM, Peltier Official like committee.
Right. Thank you for that. So yes, and we have it up on the screen there. You can just scan that QR code, and it'll take you straight to the donate page. So without further ado, we're going to move along into our next speaker, also a very, very important guest speaker today. And we're very honored to have him here with us all as well, Mr. Mike Kuzma, who is an attorney and longtime member of Leonard Peltier's legal defense team. Mike is working through the Freedom of Information Act for the release of government files on Resmer's case. So yeah, while we get him up on the screen, thank you for being here, Mike.
Oh, we see you, Mike. You're just muted.
Yeah, I think you're muted, Mike.
Oh, let me send you another request, see if that helps.
How's that?
Here we go.
Sorry about that. Again,
No
thank you for having me this afternoon. What I thought I would do is talk briefly about the FOIA requests that we submitted on behalf of Leonard back in 2001. In 2001, Leonard was in Leavenworth. The Defense Committee was based in Lawrence, Kansas. And Gina Chiala, who headed up the committee, asked me if I'd be willing to take over some FOIA requests that Jennifer Harberry had submitted on behalf of Leonard, which is what I did. So I consulted with John Privatera, who had submitted requests in the late 70s, Bruce Ellison, Barry Backrack, and we decided to submit FOIA requests to different field offices of the FBI that we thought would have records regarding to Leonard Peltier and Resmer's Resmer standing for reservation murders. So we decided to submit requests to the Minneapolis field office, Chicago, Los Angeles, and a few others. So what happened after we submitted these requests, and back in 2001, you submitted the requests to the specific field offices. Currently, all requests are sent to the FBI FOIA office in Winchester, Virginia. So we submitted these requests. Every field office that we sent a request to had records regarding Leonard and Resmer's. So we, out of the blue, were contacted by someone from the FBI FOIA section who wanted us to agree to not submitting any additional FOIA requests if we limited the scope of the requests we had submitted. And of course, we were unwilling to do that. So we were negotiating back and forth. So one of the questions we had for the FBI was what field offices have records regarding Leonard Peltier and Resmer's and which didn't. And the FBI claimed we would have to submit requests to each and every one of the 56 field offices of the FBI to determine which offices had records or did not. So we did, in fact, submit 56 FOIA requests to the different FBI field offices. And we learned that every field office in America had records regarding Leonard and Resmer's. So we submitted these requests, as I indicated, in 2001. And then all of them were sent to FBI headquarters for processing. And lo and behold, what happens? The FBI said, we can't process these because you have an unpaid bill dating back nearly 2 decades. So Leonard knew nothing about this bill. The Defense Committee didn't know anything about this bill. So we paid it just to get the ball rolling. We got stonewalled because they said there were thousands and thousands of pages. So we initiated a lawsuit in Minneapolis, the U.S. District Court for the District of Minnesota, and we sued the Chicago field office and the Minneapolis office, which was the office of origin for the Resmer's probe. So we we filed a lawsuit. The government immediately filed for an Open America stay. And what that is, it says that we have, too many requests and not enough personnel to process this material. So we need, I think the stay was 5 years. So it took them 5 years to process the sought after material. And we learned that the Minneapolis office alone had 93,800 pages that were potentially responsive to our requests. The Chicago field office had 3,827 pages. And we also learned nationwide there were 142,597 responsive pages. Now, keep in mind at Leonard's original trial in 1977, the government merely turned over 3,500 pages of material and said, that's all we have. And that turns out to be a big lie. Fast forward to 1978, when John Privatera and Mike Tiger submitted requests to the FBI. And as a result of that request and subsequent lawsuit that was filed in 1979 in the District of Columbia, we learned there were 18,000 pages. 6,000 pages were withheld on national security grounds, and 12,000 pages were released in full or in part. Now, of those 12,000 pages, there was the ballistics report that was used, I believe, in the early 80s to show that the weapon linked to Leonard couldn't have possibly been used to shoot the 2 agents. So getting back to the Minneapolis case, we filed the suit in 2002. We finally made legal arguments in 2006 and 2007. the government argued that they properly withheld pages. We argued, among other things, that disclosure, not secrecy, is the dominant feature of FOIA. So what did the U.S. District Magistrate Judge write in one of her opinions? We were arguing that there was all this, misconduct on the part of the FBI and such, and that for that reason, some of this material should be released. So the Magistrate Judge Susan Richard Nelson stated, whatever government misconduct might have occurred in the 1970s and the 1980s in the criminal prosecution of Leonard Peltier does not establish that the FBI is now improperly asserting FOIA exemptions. The district judge in that case, his name was Donovan Frank, he stated in a subsequent decision on February 9th, 2007, any evidence of prior misconduct on the part of the FBI in its investigation, extradition, and prosecution of Mr. Peltier was irrelevant. So that's what we were up against. The government had also, they argued this material was exempt because it would hamper the nation's war on transnational terrorism. They withheld the identities of confidential informants and so on. And the district court, along with the Eighth Circuit Court of Appeals, upheld the withholding of 10,555 pages out of the Minneapolis office. So to this very day, there's thousands and thousands of pages that Leonard Peltier and his defense attorneys have not had an opportunity to review. So how can anyone say Leonard got a fair trial when he didn't have all the records in the possession of the FBI and other agencies, I might add, to wage a proper defense?
2 minutes, Mike.
Okay, thank you, Paulette. So and we're just dealing with the Minneapolis lawsuit. We, there was the one in the District of Columbia. We brought a lawsuit here in Buffalo. We found out the Buffalo field office, for example, had 812 pages. Let's see, we sued the CIA. They had records. I don't believe we got anything from the CIA. We did learn a lot. Within the Resmer's file, there's a file called Subfile N, which is the informant file. We have not gotten access to that, and the government attorney refused to give us a page count on the Subfile N. Let's see. The Resmer's files have been deemed to be of historical significance, and they have allegedly been turned over to the National Archives and Records Administration. I would add that Barney Frank, when he was in the House, he was a member of Congress out of Massachusetts, was very helpful in making that happen. In fact, his office was able to get thousands of pages of material, which they turned over to the Defense Committee when they were based in Lawrence. One final note, I know I've been jumping around, but this FOIA issue, I could spend hours talking about some of the hoops the FBI and the Justice Department had us jump through. But FOIA exemptions are not supposed to be used to shield unauthorized or illegal activity, investigative activity, but yet that's occurred in Leonard's case throughout the history of the FOIA requests that have been made on his behalf. So I'm pretty sure if they release these records, we would see that there's a lot more criminality on the part of the FBI that's been concealed from the public. So again, I'd like to thank you for inviting me, and I'm very confident that the new team led by Jennifer will be successful in gaining Leonard's liberation from Coleman. Thank you again.
True. Thank you so much, Mike. I just really want to appreciate your presentation and your contribution to today's program. You know, to give an extensive overview of the fight back just on the FOIA alone, and you know, obviously, which has which is part of the whole purpose of the state is to have us hustling and trying to hit it on all these angles. And so this is why we need legal teams, right? Not just one individual to be able to hit this on all fronts. And I just really want to appreciate this legal overview by both yourself and Attorney Jones. So I just wanted to say that as well. Thank you so much.
You're very
Mike.
welcome.
Yes. Uhuru. Anything you wanted to add, OPM, before we tell people how close we are towards reaching our goal? I do want to say that. Uhuru.
No, just I mean, you pretty much hit on everything I would have said, but I'll just reiterate and thank you, Mike, for being here with us today. Thank you, Jennifer, for being here with us today, because this is a very vital part of everything that's happening with Leonard, and of everything that happens to political prisoners in general. So I think it's very important for us as supporters of Leonard's and all political prisoners to understand the legal side of what's going on, and again, the extent that that the government will go to silence these leaders and heroes of ours who are using their voice and who have dedicated basically their lives and freedom to making the world a better place for us and standing up for what's right. So thank you both for being here.
Right on. And that's really exciting segue. And I just wanted to thank you again, Mike, for joining us. And we hope you can also stay on. There may be some questions,
Yes, I can.
Yes, wonderful. So everyone, we have a goal of raising $3,000. And if we can pull it up on the screen, just the amount, so that people can know, where to donate, and we can let everyone know that we are over 2/3 towards reaching our goal. We have raised a total of $1,960 towards our $3,000 goal of, building defense to help free Leonard Peltier. So we are thanking everybody who already went to www.freeleonardpeltiernow.org/donate. Again, that's freeleonardpeltiernow.org/donate. Or those of you who are making your contributions on Cash App, $Peltier Official Com. That's 2 M's for Com, Peltier Official Com. So,
and Chairperson, we have also raised $130 on PayPal. So people are donating on all platforms, and it's really wonderful. And we just need to keep pushing this. The $3,000 will really help Jennifer and the lawyers help get Leonard out. So thank you all for doing this.
Right on. Thank you so much, Paulette. Paulette is a member of the Leonard Peltier Ad Hoc Committee and is helping behind the scenes. And so thank you for that update. Yes, any way that you can donate, do make sure that you are doing it from the website. We want to make sure that these resources are going to this committee to free Leonard Peltier. So again, that's freeleonardpeltiernow.org/donate, or Cash App $official Peltier, Cash sign Peltier Official Com. That's COMM. Excuse me. And Paulette, if there's any information about the other links, if you can just please put that in the chat for how people can make contributions. So I'm going to really looking forward to and excited to introduce our next speaker on today's program. Again, you are here joining us for the case of Leonard Peltier. We're here to, discuss why his liberty is bound to ours. And this is brought to you by the Hands Off Uhuru Fight Back Coalition and the official Leonard Peltier Ad Hoc Committee. And I know that I would not be here if it were not for the person who I'm going to introduce next. That is Chairman Amalia Shatella, who is joining us on the ground in St. Louis. Chairman Amalia Shatella is the chairman of the African People's Socialist Party and leader of the Uhuru movement. This is a worldwide movement fighting for the liberation of Africa and African people everywhere that we have been dispersed. And the chairman is the founder of the Burning Spear newspaper. He has published numerous books on the theory of African internationalism and traveled the world building the anti-colonial movement. And just to say that you know, part of what we have to understand and what has been said already by all of our speakers is the colonial assault on the indigenous people is bound to the colonial assault on Africa and African people and the entire world's oppressed and toiling masses. And so Chairman Omali Yeshitela has put forth this, you know, theory that has us bring the colonial question into every aspect of the, you know, of our understanding and to win the war of ideas. And so I want to really appreciate Omali Yeshitela, and I'm going to welcome you up, Chairman Uhuru.
Uhuru, thank you very much, Comrade Mwezi. I want to appreciate the ability to be here to speak with you today and to speak on this question of why Leonard Peltier, our relative, why his liberty, why our liberty is connected to his, and that the liberation, the freedom of Leonard Peltier is a part of the process of freeing us all. I think also it is, I wanted to acknowledge the fact that there are various people who are in this meeting and organizations with whom we've had a relationship over a number of years, some of whom I'm extraordinarily happy to see our relative Lenny Foster from Diné. I'm happy to say that our party was with the Diné people, and I think the early 80s when they were awaiting attack by the United States government because they had discovered uranium on that land at Big Mountain. We were there. And because we do recognize this relationship between the indigenous people and African people, that fact is there's no way to get around the reality that the United States is a settler colony, and it has settlers, people who are not indigenous to this land. Came from Europe in the same fashion that people who are not indigenous to the land of Palestine came to Palestine and settled on that land and took that land. And like in Palestine, the settlers here, they made the law. And the laws they made justified their presence, their existence in Palestine. And so we have a situation where we're in a country that a settler colony. And then within the settler colony, there's also what might be called a domestic or internal colony. There's African people who are here experiencing oppression, exploitation as well. I think when we recognize this, it should be easier for us to understand the question of this relationship that the future, the liberty of Leonard Peltier has to all of us. For one thing, we live in a situation where we characterize as a colonial mode of production, where the whole process that gave birth to capitalism, that gave birth to what is characterized as white people, the whole process that gave birth to what is called America and the Americas, neither of the names of which is indigenous to this land and to the area that's characterized in that fashion. We had that started some 600 years ago by Portugal, when Portugal, a tiny, almost insignificant entity, stepped out and initiated a process attacking Africa, started the process of trading human beings, African people, throughout what is now characterized as the Americas. This is the process that for the first time in human history created a world economy. And this world economy is a thing that linked us all together, even though in most instances we weren't necessarily aware of the linkage. We weren't aware of this connection that had been made against our will. But that is the reality. And so the whole concept of community society changed with the advent of this world economy. And so now we're not just talking about some rinky-dink entity in Manchester in England or foggy, craggy rock island that ends up controlling something like a quarter of the world's population and a quarter of the world's territory because of land hunger and because of resource hunger that strikes out, kidnapping people, dispersing people all around the world against our will, setting up establishing settler colonies in places that we know as America, places that we know as Australia, Canada, New Zealand, and what have you, places that white people are not indigenous to. But it is they who went there. It is they who made horrible offenses against the peoples who live there, in many instances nearly destroying populations, in some instances actually destroying populations. And on this land, they made the laws. And they set up courthouses. And there's a court here in the United States that put Leonard Peltier on trial. There is a jail, a prison in the United States where Leonard Peltier is held. And these are courts and prisons that have been established on the land of the people who have been in prison and tried in these courts. So this is a serious kind of situation. And it should help to explain to us why you have the kind of treatment of comrades like Leonard Peltier and the people who've been mentioned in terms of political prisoners in this country and their treatment, while there's a total disregard for what laws and constitutions and principles that they say uphold what they characterize as this great democracy, while there's a ignorance of how they can say there is something called the Freedom of Information Act on the one hand, and then deny everything that's asked for them. They don't care about those kinds of things. I just want to mention that we are confronted with two critical issues. One is the political issue. And the political issue was started at the moment the colonizers came and took our land, took our freedom, took our customs, and put us in humiliating situations where you find colonized people in cages. This has been in the whole process. I have been to places and seen. I'm in St. Louis now, where during the World Fair in early 1900s, they had human beings in cages. I forgot how many human zoos they had here. I've been in Belgium and I've seen the places and so-called museums where there were cages. They picked up entire African families and put them behind glass cages so white people could come and watch them. This is typical. This is normal. And African people in cages. I was in prison in St. Petersburg, Florida, for tearing down a mural that made fun of African people, humiliating, degrading kinds of things and pictures that they paint of us. And I was in prison and locked in a basement in a cage by myself. And the prisons would bring white children down from classes to watch me in the cage. So this is a normal thing. Leonard Peltier is not an abnormality. It's a normal situation, normal treatment of the colonized by the colonizers. Now, here's a contradiction that we're looking at and that we have to contend with. That the laws, that the constitutions, they had nothing to do, were not for us. In fact, they were made for Europeans who were engaged in struggles with each other, running from poverty, running from oppression from Europe, from England, all these other places, running from a feudal mode of production where white people had lived for nearly 1,000 years in the worst kinds of conditions, starvation, where they own no land, they own no property. You talk about property, they didn't have property. It was the only laws that prevailed was that which was the king who had custody of laws and was given custody by God, the divine right of kings. That was the law that Europeans were living with. As I mentioned, this was during feudalism, where ordinary white people did not own land. They did not. They lived on the land. They were tied to the land owned by the landlords. Even the term landlord that we use now comes from that relationship, that history of Europe. Now they have been rewarded with tremendous amounts of resources and land. All you got to do is come to the so-called New World, kill, take, and steal the resources that's of the people, steal human beings, and have them also work for you. And this is the kind of process that we have seen coming to existence. So when you have a mode of production, when you have the means by which people create life for themselves, stemming from that is a superstructure. And the superstructure will include things like the legal system, things like the ideas, the ideology, the philosophy that springs from that. You don't have a system that's based on slavery, condemning slavery. You don't have a system based on genocide, condemning genocide. You don't have a system that's based on oppression, expressing the need for people not to be oppressed. And all the laws and the traditions and the customs and what have you support this way that this society achieves the resources to reproduce its own self, its own life. So here you have a situation where Europeans now running from hunger, running from starvation, running from oppression, come to this land and other lands that they went to, steal resources, etc., build lives for themselves, and then put Africans and indigenous and other people into situations where we no longer create life for ourselves. Europeans who are creating lives for themselves through stealing our resources and put us in situations where we cannot create life for ourselves. Look at the condition. Look at the indigenous population here living in concentration camps they call Indian reservations and what have you, where sometimes they have a lifespan in the 40s. What happened to the rest of that life? I mean, you have that life now has been expropriated by settlers, by colonizers who take that life and they put it in their refrigerators and they pave their streets with it and they make electric lights with it and build hospitals with that life that has been expropriated, taken from those of us who are colonized. And then they create systems, laws and things that justify that and criminalize anybody who violates or struggles against this monopoly of violence, of power, and resources that they have as a consequence of this relationship. This is the nasty relationship that has been imposed on the whole world. The whole world economy has its origin, as it exists today, has its origin in this colonial mode of production that came into existence as the process of the enslavement of Africa, African people, the dispersal of African people around the world to what we call the Americas. But I want to say there is a strong history of resistance and a relationship between what we call the Indian people, indigenous people, and Africans. That's the reality. I mean, we fought, going back to 1500 and something in what they call Hispaniola. Comrade Ward Churchill was talking about some of the first defeats that the U.S. had. We can talk about the U.S., but I'm talking about colonialism in general because the U.S. is a relatively recent phenomenon. It's one of the places where they drew the borders, but Africans and indigenous people are all over the Americas. And we were in what they call Hispaniola. We were in what they called Haiti. And as early as 1520, we were engaging in serious war. The indigenous people, along with Africans, and that's where the emergence of so-called Black Indians come from. That they are families you can find in Africa. It's hard to find an African family in this country that does have some relationship with Indians, etc. We've been fighting together for a long period of time, from Florida all the way into Mexico and various other places around this country and around this territory and within this hemisphere. So I just wanted to say that our connection, there is a connection between our freedom, between all of us. And the colonial mode of production, while it is something that sucks the blood from Africans and indigenous people, but it's also locked the colonizers, the white people who benefit in some ways from this system are locked into it too. The oppression, exploitation that is experienced by white people in this country comes from the colonial mode of production. We all have an interest in destroying the colonial mode of production. I think that's really important for us to understand. We got to fight them in the courtroom, but we got to fight them in the courtroom within the context of massive movements that we initiate against colonialism. And it has to be a united movement against colonialism. So indigenous people don't need to be involved in this struggle by themselves, and we shouldn't be afraid to say it's colonialism. And that the problem therein, of course, is because there is no identity for white people in this country before America. But the indigenous people all along, African people existed all along. So you find people whose very identity came into existence as a consequence of conquest and stealing land and resources of other people. The culture, everything flows from that. And so sometimes it's difficult for them to separate themselves from their oppressors, from their own ruling class, and to unite with the indigenous, unite with the African people, because we got to overturn this whole thing. So we need to have a massive anti-colonial movement. That's what we are a part of, creating a massive anti-colonial movement. Everybody, people, Karl Marx once said that what he referred to as wage slavery in Europe requires a pedestal of slavery pure and simple in the New World. And we talk about slavery, I'm talking about the indigenous people who were first enslaved when the Europeans came here. The first slavery, Columbus did it and took a whole group of of indigenous people here back to Europe with him. This is the whole process of enslavement of our peoples. We have to build a common movement, and the white people are going to have to move the stupidity out of their eyes and what have you, to give them the ability to recognize there ain't nothing special about white people. You've been fed this illogical assumptions that somehow you're different, you're better, and the rest of us are somehow beasts of some sort, depending on some degree of bestiality stemming from black people going all the way up based on complexion. That's so stupid. And so you know it's stupid every time you look in the mirror. You say, you know it's stupid. The only time it's not stupid is when you are in this situation comparing yourself with the rest of us based on the fact that the colonial state is white. Colonialism was based around racial stuff, and it's armed to the teeth. And so it comes with guns and things like that, kill people, threaten people, and say that if you don't act right, if you don't say the right thing, you will spend the rest of your life in prison. We will imprison you if we don't kill you. We will kill your family. We will kill everybody. We will put everybody in prison. That's this horrible state. And there's nothing that legitimate about the law. The colonialism is they make the law. So they have control of the law. But colonialism is illegitimate. Colonialism is illegitimate. So we have to win the world in this process and say we know that keeping Leonard Peltier in prison is a part of the ongoing war that's been made against the indigenous people since the first white person put his foot here and began to make people do something they didn't want to do. So I want to say that. I want to say give money. Give the money, give the money, give the money that we need now to get this comrade out of this prison, get this relative out of this death camp that they have put him in, give the money, and then go to the website and do all the other kinds of things that's been called for by the ad hoc committee to build this case and prepare for a massive struggle against colonialism. That's what we need to do. And remember, we're not alone. The whole world is changing. The whole world is changing right under our feet. And this is one of the things that's making them desperate, because this place of hegemony that they have created for themselves is shattering right before their eyes. And this is a contradiction that they have. We are on the ascendant. Let's free Leonard Peltier, not another year in prison. Free Leonard Peltier now. Uhuru.
The glitch. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chairman Amash. It's very powerful statement. And I don't even know how to sum that up right now in a few words. I just want to say that just a few things about the illegitimacy of this of this colonial state, and what allowing us, to remind us to say it's colonialism and it's colonial violence and it's colonial anything. This is all a part of one trajectory in terms of our anti-colonial struggle to overturn this system, for liberation for all, all the people, and all the world. So thank you so much, Chairman. And I know we're moving into discussion after our appeal, but I just hope that we can continue to, deepen this whole question of, Leonard Peltier and the case as it relates also to the case of the Uhuru 3 as well. So Uhuru. So Uhuru, comrade, opium. Go ahead. Were you going to say something?
No.
Okay. Well, we're going to bring up some more speakers now because, now we're going to move into our appeal. And one thing that Omali Eshatella just said, and you heard the chairman say, give the money, give the money, give the money. And this is our chance to talk about those people who gave the money to help build this case for Leonard Peltier, for the case and also for his healthcare needs. As you heard, attorney Jennifer Jones speak earlier about the type of diet, and that's just, one of the many things in terms of the, genocidal conditions where Leonard is staying, but peanut butter sandwiches and bologna sandwiches. And I mean, this is all of this goes to freeing the comrade out and having him returned home. So I think we should start opium. I just want to read some of the names of those who have, who have donated, and then we can give everybody who is. So I want to appreciate Stephanie for your $25 donation, as well as Donna, who gave a $100 donation. Thank you, Franklin, $40. Lisa, $100. Maureen, $100. Kitty, $80. Thank you so much, Kitty. Janice gave $50 towards the case. Also, thank you, Peter, $20. Uhuru Peter. Brenda, $20. Charlene, Nijme, thank you, Charlene, $100, who's one of our speakers, chairwoman, thank you so much. Raya, $40. Allison, $50. Dawn, $25. Dina, or Ruby rather, goes by Ruby, $50. Also, MQ for $35. Sylvain, $25. Lisa, $25. Jay, $50. I see a donation here from Megan, $50. Edith, 18. Bob, 20. Carol, 100. Also, Gerald, $25. Chimarenga, thank you so much. Tracy gave 40, and then a donation of $200. Did you see that one? This is from Onazane and Deputy Chair Onazane and Chairman Amalia Shatella. And I think I might be running out of names here. Oh,
Well,
Barbara.
we have Michael Koch, Dr. Michael Koch from Germany, who gave us $100.
Okay, perfect. I see that here, Paulette.
Right,
Perfect.
right. And there are other people on PayPal that have contributed. So we really want to thank everybody. We're getting close to it. Can you give us a total? I don't have that handy.
Yeah, I can give that, Paulette, and there's just a few more that have come in. Our total raises $2,750. So we have $250 left to go. And I want to thank those who helped us get to that total of $2,750. And those of you who are listening, before I go any further, I want to remind you that you can go to www.freeleonardpeltiernow.org/donate. And also you're making contributions on Cash App at $Peltier Official Com, like committee. And I want to thank also Barbara, who gave $25, another $50 from MQ, and also a $200 from the African People's Socialist Party. So I want to salute that contribution as well. Paulette, thank you for mentioning Mike with his 100. We also have Donald, 100. Peter, another 30. And also Carol, $10. Thank you, Carol. APSC, the African People's Solidarity Committee, $100. And $50 from Jesse Neville, $50 from the International People's Democratic Uhuru Movement. And so that takes us with just $150 left to reach our goal of raising $3,000 to help free Leonard Peltier, or to free Leonard Peltier. So if you want to make that $150 so you can stop hearing from me and Opium and want you to give the money, then just do it right now. But I don't know if you wanted to add anything, Opium and others who are on the call. I know we're going to bring up Comrade Don. Maybe we can have Don, who also was going to, give a brief presentation during this portion of the program. So I'll turn it back to you.
We just got $75 more, 50 from me and 25 from Odom, and so we're getting close. Everybody put in $1 and we'll be there right over the top. And when Leonard hears, because Jennifer talks with him, it will just give him the encouragement and take some of the burden off of his shoulders to know that the unity between the Uhuru movement and Leonard Peltier is alive and living in the United States. And we couldn't ask for better comrades. So we want to thank you so much. And we really appreciate this. So we just have a little ways to go. If I was Dennis Banks, I would take off somebody's jewelry and auction it off. But since I can't, please, somebody step up and match my $50.
Okay. Oh, you just, well, I was going to say, so wait, did you just give 50, Paulette? Is that what you said?
I gave 50 and then somebody to match it.
Yes, exactly. So to match Paulette's 50, or I'm going to donate 25. And if anybody wants to match my 25, sorry, I'm going to make a $25 pledge. So if there's others that want to match that as well, we can get our way. So we are $50 away now towards reaching our goal of 3,000. Let's make that happen. Uhuru. Thank you, Paulette, for that great pitch.
Yes, thank you, Paulette. And once again, thank you to everyone who has donated. I know, as Paulette mentioned, it's going to greatly lift Leonard's his spirits, and just to know the solidarity that's around the world for him and what's going on with him, and the solidarity that's going on between the ad hoc committee and the Uhuru movement, and between everyone who is in this group and this event right now. And we're really close to the goal. And as the chairman said, give the money. We're not asking you to do anything we're not doing ourselves. Pretty much everyone involved in this event, the hosts, the speakers, we've all donated once the event started today. So once again, thank you graciously to everyone who has donated and who is standing up with Leonard and his case and supporting his freedom.
Right on. And while you were giving that pitch, OPM, we received a $25 donation from Leah. So I want to appreciate Leah as well. So that is $25 left to raise. And I know we will make that as we move through the program. So I'm going to kick it over to Comrade Don, who I believe is going to take us through a presentation on Leonard. And I hope we didn't skip you, Don, or say some of what you were going to say. Oh, where is Don? Let me get Don on here. And to the stage manager, or if we have to move it in a different direction, please let us know as MCs. Try to alert Don.
There she is.
Okay, great.
Thank you all so much. I'm just blown away, and this will greatly lift Leonard's spirits, and he needs his spirits lifted right now. The man is in agony, in absolute agony, and they are not even giving him Tylenol. Okay, Leonard has said this: the FBI, with its unlimited resources, has done everything it possibly can to keep me in prison, and it has. Next slide. We were standing against the most powerful colonial police force in the world. That was not supposed to happen. The United States government has unlimited funding for their campaign to keep Leonard Peltier unjustly in prison. 1992 teletype about briefing actors, politicians, anybody that dared to advocate for Leonard Peltier. Basically scaring them witless. Next slide, please. We do not have endless resources. Leonard, they will come up with posters saying, remember agents Kohler and Williams. We don't have 1 million people to stand there with signs or take out a full-page ad saying, remember Joe Stunts. He was the only true murder that day. Next slide, please. Okay, we are striking at the heart of colonialism and genocide. This is the Wounded Knee Massacre that Penny mentioned. The system is working as intended for rich white slave owners. Next slide, please. Leonard Peltier embodies the colonial struggle. Leonard has been in prison almost 5 decades on proven fabricated evidence. Everybody has come forward and said his trial was a farce. The FBI does not care. Next slide, please. This is Leonard. Justice is not a flexible tool. Unless we all do our part to ensure that justice is applied equally to all human beings, we are a party to its abuse. We must together to protect the rights of others. There are no bystanders, folks. There are no bystanders. If we allow them to take Leonard's life, his blood is on our hands. we're telling them it's okay to come and grab any of us for anything. Next slide, please. Okay, this, this is it in a nutshell. They are killing off everybody but rich white men, period. And getting away with it. American Indians used to make up 100% of the population. It's something like 1.7% now, and most of them are in prison. Next slide, please. The occasion of Leonard Peltier is a litmus test to see what they can take from the rest of us. If we allow them to take his life, our lives are lost. We are giving the U.S. government consent to take our liberty for no other reason but then that they can. And I said the U.S. government because it is not our government. We need to raise our voices and demand accountability. Chairman O'Malley talked about the criminality of the FBI. The criminality of those on the other side of the bars is, we need to hold them accountable. Next slide. We do squirt them. The struggle for Leonard's life is a struggle for the lives of us all. We are fighting oppression and tyranny so deeply rooted in our society it has become the way things are. We have a nation of apathy. People are despondent. They know something is wrong. They have no idea what to do about it. We need to raise our voices and demand change. This cannot be the way things are any longer. Next slide, please. Every penny in this struggle matters, and it does. It does. Our lawyers are, I cannot stress how awesome our legal team is. I mean, Jennifer fights for the whole person. She fights for Leonard. They wanted to take him to the shower, black box in shackles, and leave his walker behind, and he gave up a chance at a rare shower. And she went up one side of them and down the other. I mean, but, this takes dollars, guys. They're flying in doctors and social workers, and we're taking on the unlimited resources of the United States Justice Department. Next slide, please. Leonard Peltier is now at risk of losing his life due to medical neglect. The prison he's held at has gone on indefinite lockdown because they can. These men have committed no infractions. There is no reason. Leonard has been locked down for over 10 days now, not a minute out of the cell. That would be illegal for livestock. And the lockdowns have removed the thin layer of transparency that once protected prisoners. Nobody knows what is going on inside of that prison. Next slide, please. Our legal team has gone to extraordinary efforts to get medical care for Leonard Peltier. They fight for the whole person. That is rare. They have gotten in a doctor and other experts. And that is an ongoing process. The conditions Leonard have, they're very painful and they're life-threatening. And our legal team is fighting hard to save his life, to keep him alive long enough that they can get him out. Next slide, please. We must keep Leonard alive so attorneys can free him. I jump ahead of myself. Leonard is in agony from treatable conditions. This takes real dollars. Next slide, please. Please help however you are able. Donate. If you can't donate, send an email to your representative and tell them to do their job. Congress is supposed to provide meaningful oversight to the Bureau of Prisons. The Bureau of Prisons is out of control. We need to ask our representatives to do their jobs. Profound gratitude to Leonard's lead attorney, Jennifer Jones, her co-counsel, Moira Meltzer-Cohen, of course, Mike Kuzma, and hands off Uhuru. Leonard has been so inspired by your messages of solidarity. I have not been able to have conversations with him because he's been in lockdown, but everyone I've had he's talked about messages he's gotten from you and how it is such a comfort knowing that his sacrifice means something. He needs to know that. And right now he'd say, "Are you crying?" It's like, no, Leonard, we will win. If you want to volunteer, we need help, guys. We need help with a lot of stuff. We need awareness spread. Tell somebody, tell that person that you know that knows people. Tell your mailman. Everything that I send out, I print my own labels and it has hashtag pre-Leonard Peltier on it. There's going to be a mailman that gets tired of wondering who Leonard Peltier is and Google him. I believe that's it. That is the last slide, isn't it? Okay, donate. There is a QR code. You can donate at preleonardpeltiernow.org. If you want to contact us for any reason, info@preleonardpeltiernow.org. We're hoping to get more things up on the website. We've got a bunch of t-shirts coming in soon, but I think the most important items are the letter from his prosecutorial attorney saying they could not prove he committed any offense on that reservation. They made it all up and admitted that. And why is this man still in prison? A letter from Paul Bird. He was there. He described how the whole thing went down. Those agents were there the day before. They cased the place. They drove in the day after with a map of the AIM encampment and had root cellars labeled as bunkers. Drove in at high speed, set up roadblocks, told the hospitals to expect casualties. The same day Dick Wilson slipped off to Washington to sell uranium mining rights. That was a coordinated attack. Joe Stunts was the only murder that day. We need to get this man out. We need to get him out yesterday. And I so appreciate all of you. Thank you.
And Dawn, would you let them know that if they go to our website, there's information on how to write a letter to the congressman?
Yes, absolutely. There are template letters. And you're going to hear, well, that's not my district. What you can tell them is the United States of America is your district. Two attorney generals in 1924 and 1940 have come down on Congress for not providing oversight to the FBI. And now the BOP. They forgot that they are supposed to provide oversight. They need to be reminded. If every representative hears from one person, they're going to be talking about it. The BOP is killing people and getting away with it. There are suicides, there are deaths from medical neglect, there are suspicious deaths, all under the cover of lockdown. They're out of control. They shut down FCI Dublin because of the rapes, but the only reason they got caught is the guards could not stop themselves from filming the rapes and selling the footage. And I was at Dublin. And it was Rape Central. I might as well put it on the inmate handbook.
2 minutes.
You know, if you're a female, expect it. But Coleman is 10 times worse. We need to get him out of there, and that prison needs shut down. Thank you.
Thank you
Paulette,
so
anything
much,
you want to
Dawn.
add?
And that's
No, I just hope people go, check out our website. There is information, there is movies and books that have been made and written besides wards for people to get a thorough understanding of Leonard's case and the Native resistance since 1492. So please check out our website and pass on the information to your family, friends, and church.
Thank you so much,
Under
Paulette.
this sacrifice, they chose to cover up the over 60 people that they murdered. That reservation is blood-soaked. They used the goon squad as vigilantes to kill their own people. And they have never been held accountable for that. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, comrade. And I just, one thing you said is we will win, and we are, and people, and I want to, make sure that we give an announcement about how much we have raised, because I really want to salute that presentation that you gave. Really great, great PowerPoint. I just wanted to say that. And also just to say in the chat, as you were just, wrapping up, and thank you, Paulette, for your contributions. Donna Wallach, or I hope I pronounced your name correctly, Donna, said the BOP, the Bureau of Prisons, is murdering people. You get killed in an accident. Incarcerating people under horrendous conditions is not an accident. And the president of the International People's Democratic Uhuru Movement, President Matsamela, indicated that at once we were organizing with a woman who was raped in that prison. And these stories go on, and it's just very clear that we have to get Leonard out. I do see some questions that are also coming in, so I do think we should move to Q&A to make sure that we have time to address those questions. And if there's anything to add, Paulette and Dawn, you can add, please do in the discussion portion. But wanted to just salute, because we have exceeded our goal, and that's that is great. And I really want to salute and appreciate everybody. Our total raised so far, I want to continue to remind you to go to www.freeleonardpeltiernow.org. freeleonardpeltiernow.org/donate, and we can get that up on the screen for you one last time as I run through who has donated, as well as you can find us on Cash App to make your donation at $Peltier Official Peltier Official COMM. And I want to appreciate Mike Kuzma for your $25 donation. Thank you so much. I want to appreciate Wendy for your $25 donation, as well as $50 from Jesse, $50 from Shakur, $20 from Opium, and that has taken us to a total of $3,240. Oh, there's been a quick change, so that's $3,195 raised. So we are 195 past our goal, and we're going to continue to exceed our goal on today. So I just want to salute everybody who made your contributions on today. And for the sake of time, and to take a moment to deepen and answer any questions, I only saw one question that came in. There was something else. Please let me know. I did add that so that the MCs would have access to it. But if there anything, yeah, let's go ahead, Opium, right? I think we should just go right into our Q&A. And I want to also invite the panelists who are, who were a part of today's program to also, you're welcome to come back on camera and to participate during the discussion. And if you do have any questions, please put them in the chat or use the Q&A feature on the Zoom. Uhuru. So, Opium, I'm just going to read the one question that I see here. This was asked, okay, great. This was asked by Carolyn Matthews. Carolyn asks, who was the witness who told about the FBI plans and maps and hospitals contact the day before the attack at the res? So that was a question from Carolyn Matthews. And I can repeat the question if needed.
Yes, could you repeat it? I think there's two questions in there.
Okay, I'll just read it as I see it here. I'll try to maybe make it more fluid. It says here, who was the witness who told about the FBI plans and maps and hospital? And then it says contact the day before the attack at the res. So
actually, they found the maps in the agent's cars. They were supposed to be serving a warrant. There was no warrant. They did find the map in the trunk of the agent's cars. They'd been there the day before at a cabin that overlooked the Jumping Bull property and surveyed the AIM encampment and all that. And the information about the roadblocks and the hospital is expecting casualties that was in the book, Have You Thought of Leonard Peltier Lately by Harvey Arden.
And that was actually Kamuk Banks. And Dennis were living at the Jumping Bulls, and Kamuk had to take her daughter to the hospital that morning before they went to court. And she was talking with one of the nurses, and the nurse said, my gosh, what's going on? We have so many body bags. We've never had this many. And so Kamuk told Dennis when she met up with him about what had been said. And of course, they came back, but much later, after the shootout. So it was known at the hospital that they were expecting a large amount of casualties that day. Also, because that was the day Dickie Wilson gave part of their reservation away, we were told that was why there was a large FBI presence, because they assumed that there would be an uprising on the reservation once people learned about it. But people didn't learn about the giving away of their reservation till days after. And I think if Ward is still around, he can clarify when that actually was announced to the people of Pine Ridge that their reservation had been sold off by Dickie Wilson.
That was a coordinated attack. That was meant to be a distraction. During Wounded Knee, the FBI was very angry with the Army because General Warner countermanded their orders from shoot to kill to shoot to wound. The FBI insisted that they be given paramilitary powers so they could take over and do it the way they wanted to. They were granted paramilitary powers, and that night, a little bit after the shooting, the entire might of the U.S. military descended on that reservation. Tactical teams, helicopters. They busted through people's doors. They shot up their houses. They shot portraits off the walls. They put a bullet through the eyes of a porcelain doll. Oh, Ward's back. I'll give you the floor.
And actually, I just wanted to say too, thank you, Don and Paulette, and that Donna put in the chat that all this information is in the book by Peter Matheson, quote, it's called In the Spirit of Crazy Horse. So thank you, Donna, for that. And yes, we have some other panelists who have joined us as well. So, and just if I can get a time check for this section, I know our timekeeper will let us know, but we can just, if there's anything else to be said, Uhuru.
Ward, can you give? Ward, you're muted.
You're still muted, Ward.
There you go. I'm asking him to unmute.
Get Natsu. She'll help you.
I'll be joined, connected to audio, Ward. Maybe you have to connect at the microphone in the bottom left. Hopefully we can help.
Looks like he's unmuted now.
Yeah, I think it's an audio thing. Is there anything I do see? I think for the sake of time, but I want to see if Ward, if you do happen to unmute, please do contribute. But are there any last words or any last closing statements from any of those of you who are joining us again before we move towards giving our announcements and our closing on today? Oh, and I see Ward is trying to speak, but we still cannot hear you.
Trying to hear from Ward.
Yeah. Ward, if you have to leave and come back, maybe then you can join audio. That's always another quick fix.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jennifer, do you have something you would like to add to this?
No, I don't. Sure.
Thank you, Jennifer. All right. Well, I just wanted to, not in closing, but just, see if you have anything that you would like to add, OPM, before we just, just to sum up what we heard today, and just, again, the importance of, the case of Leonard Peltier. And I did want to just say, again, repeat how much we were able to raise on today, which was a total of $3,195 towards the case for Leonard Peltier. You heard from the attorneys who are helping to lead this case. You also heard from Professor Ward Churchill, who was a member of the Leonard Peltier Ad Hoc Committee. We also had a great, and really important, presentations from Lenny Foster, who was the spiritual advisor of Leonard Peltier, as well as Charlene Nijme, who is the chairwoman of the Muwekma Ohlone Nation. And again, I wanted to thank attorneys Jennifer Jones and Mike Kuzma for joining us on today. We were unfortunately unable to hear from Susie Bear, who was planning on joining us, So we do hope that Susie can, come back again. Susie was is the filmmaker and producer of Warrior, and she produced and directed that documentary of which you saw a clip of today, and it's called Warrior: The Life of Leonard Peltier. And this film has won several awards and is considered the, definitive biography of Leonard Peltier. So we want to encourage people to check out the film Warrior, and we hope to have Susie Bear on with us again in the future. So
Film is
I would
on
like
our
to.
website, by the way. That's a quick way to find it, just going to our website.
Great. Thank you so much, Don. And thank you so much, everyone. Chairman Omali Yeshitela, who is one of the Uhuru three, as well as Penny Hess and Jesse Neville. I want to really salute those comrades who are on the call. And I wanted to see, Chairman, if you have any closing, remarks as we move to adjourn, as well as Opium. Thank you.
Uhuru, I'm just highly appreciative of the ability to be here today and all of these incredible forces who fighting the good fight, so to speak. And I was struck by, all of the participation. We've worked with War Churchill forever, and we're meeting this incredible force, the ad hoc committee to free Leonard Peltier. We wanted to be engaged in this struggle. We can go back 30 years or more and see the evidence of where we were defending and pushing the case of Leonard Peltier, and more than that. And even during the time where we've been fighting the case around the Uhuru 3, we wanted to engage in this struggle, but were advised against it in terms of the people who appear to have been in charge of that defense up until the advent of the ad hoc committee. So we're really happy to see the ad hoc committee, that it allowed us to come back together. There's so much that could be said in terms of the relationship of Africans and indigenous people. This is separate. This is part of, I guess, the overall discussion in terms of why everybody should be defending Leonard in this case. But there's a real history here that many people have forgotten, even indigenous and African people ourselves, but it goes back a long time. So I also think that you look at the things that have been said by lawyers and people who are familiar with the case of total disregard for law here. And it's almost difficult to understand it unless we do understand that the laws that we are talking about were not made for indigenous people, were not made for African people. And the contradiction, the conundrum for the government is that at the point they were forced to pretend that the law was something that was in the interest of everybody, now they are placed in this situation where we're trying to go to court and we're doing these other things. And we just want to, as part of this struggle, I think we just have to help white people understand that if the law was not made for Africans and if it was not made for indigenous, every time they make an assault on what's supposed to be constitutional rights and law, it's ultimately an assault against you. And that there's an assumption that they can do it because we are Black people and dirty Indians and however they characterize Mexicans and all these other people. And so this becomes the ability. This is what arms them. And this is why this whole philosophy of white nationalism, white superiority is so important to them. And but more and more people, I think, we're helping to drag them out of that dead end and help white people to become connected to the rest of the world. And which is, I think one of the things that we find ourselves doing, making that possible. So I want to say that. And finally, I want to say that I was glad to see Julia Wright. Thank you so much, Comrade Jennifer, for making that happen. In many ways, it was her father who played a really impactful role in terms of our own development. I read his books, as a child and what have you, and it was just extraordinary. So I know she's gone now from this, but please convey that to her. So I just wanted to express again, my appreciation for being able to be here with all of you and this incredible work that we are doing. The fact of the matter is, the world has changed. And this meeting, this discussion, this question of Leonard Peltier and political prisoners is happening within the context of a changed world and a desperate, critical, crisis-ridden social system and ruling class that's trying to hang on by its very fingertips and thinks that by murdering people in prisons and shooting people down and coming at 5 o'clock in the morning with flashbang grenades and armored vehicle will solve that problem, but it won't. And the fact of the matter is that when history is knocking on your door, there's nothing that can be done to prevent it from entering. History is happening right now, and we're part of that history. So thank you, Uhuru.
Yes, we are part of that history, and we will see freedom in our lifetime, in your lifetime, in Leonard's lifetime. And this is just has been a really profound webinar. I don't know if you have anything you like to add, Opium. I just really wanted to unite with those closing words and just this remarkable program and Fight Back.
Yeah, definitely. Once again, thank you to everyone for being here and for supporting Leonard and for supporting his freedom. Thank you very graciously to everyone who donated and who actually helped us get above our goal that we had in mind for today. That's great news. I know everyone involved with the event today is very happy about that. I know when Jennifer talks to Leonard, that's going to be some great news for him and really lift his spirits. And thank you so much to all the guest speakers we had today. You know, this event would not have been what it is and was without you here in solidarity with us. And on behalf of the ad hoc committee, we're very honored to have had you all here with us today. And big ups and thank you to the Uhuru movement as well. It's always great working with you guys, and we really, really appreciate your solidarity and support.
Uhuru, right on, comrade. Yes, and that is, that takes us to our announcements. We want people to continue to, follow all of these fight backs. So I just wanted to appreciate those closing words, Comrade Opium, and it's been great to co-MC with you on today. And wanted to remind everybody, and we don't have slides, but this will be, linked in the chat or later on the social media platforms if we missed it. But to remind everybody that the Uhuru 3 trial will be taking place on September 3rd. And we are calling on everybody to get to Tampa, Florida on September 3rd. Sign up. Let us know that we can count on you to be at the trial so we can begin to continue organizing how we will make this, what is expected to be a month-long trial, a serious fight back for the states. You can do that by going to handsoffuhuru.org/trial. That's handsoffuhuru.org/trial. Also wanted to remind everybody that on April 24th, Mumia Abu Jamal turns 70 years old, and there is a rally happening in Philly, and there's other events that are happening on that day. Our chat moderators will add to the chat the link where you can, follow and get more information to celebrate this comrade on his 70th birthday. Also on April 27th, we want to remind everybody that the Uhuru 3, if you are in Asheville, North Carolina, the Hands Off Uhuru committee there is hosting a virtual event. It is virtual, but we want to salute that committee who is organizing this, calling on people to support reparations to African people and to join the fight back, join the anti-colonial free speech fight back. And to drop the charges on Chairman Amalia Shatella, Penny Hess, and Jesse Neville. And you can find out more information about this event on April 27th by going to handsoffuhuru.org/events. Also, save the date for May 18th. That is the next Hands Off, webinar, which will be featuring and talking more about COINTELPRO. You heard from one of the experts today, Professor Ward Churchill, and we're going to deepen that. And we also wanted to save the date for June 26th. For the Leonard Peltier event. This is happening in San Francisco, California. If you're out here in San Francisco, June 26th, more events and nationally, and international information and more events nationally and internationally will be, put out and more information. So we'll make sure that you get that information, but you can follow the Leonard Peltier Ad Hoc Committee on social media. And I know OPM, you have that information. So I might kick it to you if you wanted to give us that, and then as we move towards close. how they can
Okay,
follow Leonard
yes.
Peltier.
Thank you. Actually, I just put the links in the chat for our Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube pages. So you can find that there. And you know, if you're not connected with us on social media, I would definitely encourage you to do so. We could definitely use your support on there. And more importantly, you know, it's a great way for you to stay up to date and current on what's happening with Leonard. If you have not or are not familiar with our website, freeleonardpeltiernow.org, please go there. We have several calls to action. We have sample scripts of you know, suggested language to reach out to these congressmen and officials. We have the names and numbers of officials for you to contact and request and demand that Leonard be released and get his freedom. All of our calls to action and things that are pertinent to Leonard's case are available on the website, and it's all laid out there for you. If you haven't joined our newsletter, that's also another great way to stay in the know of everything that's happening with Leonard. And when calls of action are happening, you'll get an email with, you know, detailed instructions on how you can support that call to action. So yeah, definitely would encourage everyone to do that. And thank you, everyone, for your participation and for being here with us today.
Thank you so much, comrade. And I just wanted to say this has been a great event. And I know we do have a video, and Opium, if you did want to introduce that. But and I didn't, you know, mention that Opium Sabah is a revolutionary, you know, cultural worker, right? And you know, using your skills in music and the arts. And so, you know, we're actually going to also be hearing from you as we close out today's program. So I wanted to make sure I gave you a proper introduction.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, and I don't think I mentioned that in the beginning, but you know, besides my my activism, I am a revolutionary hip hop artist and producer. My family has a long stemming legacy and history of resisting and speaking out through art. And a Jericho comrade of mine by the name of Adam Carpinelli, who also produces music, was working on a project called Take the Power Back, which surrounded around around a movement that was happening in Portland, where masses of, you know, impoverished and poor communities were having their electricity cut off due to lack of payment, and I believe due to the cutting of a program that helped assist them with that. So there was an album that I was part of called Take the Power Back, and this video we're going to show you is featured on that album. I will drop a link in the chat to the album if for anyone who might be interested in listening to the whole thing. It features revolutionary hip hop artist Mike Crenshaw from Portland, Oregon. It also features world-renowned and known folk artist by the name of David Rovix. And while they were working on this album, you know, due to my history of activism and my association with the National Jericho movement, I kind of wanted to, you know, I wanted to highlight some of the unsung heroes and the good work, you know, that all the people with the Jericho movement do for, you know, all political prisoners. And I just wanted to shed a little bit more light on that situation, because there are a lot of people who don't know about political prisoners, or they only know, you know, the high-profiled ones. So anyway, that's the idea behind the song. I produced the song. I'm also featured on it, and conveniently, it is titled "Free 'Em All." So please enjoy. Thank you for being here, and let's free all political prisoners, y'all. Uhuru and peace.
Uhuru, Opium.
Uhuru. Okay,
This
go ahead.
is Lisa, one of the techs. I don't know how I missed getting this video file. Do you have a link or something? I can pull it up quickly if you have it.
Yeah, I can get the link for it. Just post it in the chat, or
Yeah, if you get that, then it will just take me a couple of seconds. I could hopefully pull it up. Sorry about
okay.
this.
Can I mention real quick, we do have a Twitter or X presence now.
Okay, can you put that information in the chat too, Don?
Yes, I did, but I'll put it again. Thank you.
You did already. Okay, let me find that and make a note of that. Great.
And then the link should be in the chat now for the video.
All right, I think I got it.
Thank you. And also to thank our AVs and our tech, and thank you, Don, for that. So yes, free Leonard Peltier, not one more year. Drop the charges on the Uhuru 3, and salute to everybody for such a powerful event. Uhuru.
Yes, yes.
Blessings. Ashe. Salam.
Peace to Sophia Bukhari,
Albert Washington.
Herman Ferguson,
Richard Mafundi Lake.
Marilyn Buck,
Kuwasi Balagoon.
Phil Africa,
Melvin Dixon.
Delbert Africa,
Oscar Washington.
Iya Fulani Suni Ali,
Luis Rodriguez.
Afeni Shakur,
Hugo Panel.
Mondo Wilanga,
Eddie Hatcher.
Herman Wallace,
Robert Webb.
Bashir Hamid,
Lolita LeBron.
Teddy Jahi,
Geronimo G. Jaga.
John Trudell, Fred Hampton. Yeah, man. From the most oppressive system in humanity's existence, disproportionate penalties, a stiffer sentence for political beliefs. They sit in prison and may never be released. From opposition, abolition is the key. We see no justice, so you know there is no peace. Systemic genocide inside the belly of the beast. What's beef? Being targeted for your beliefs? Politicians are cheats, and the captains of police. State agencies, they hunt you down in the streets. They want you dead or locked up if your philosophy is a product of history. Strategic victory results when the culture works to achieve principles and passion, commitment to action. The greatest threat to oppression, they can't let that happen. They want to crush your dreams, destroy your hope. Peace to Sundiata, Asada, and Russell Show. Free them all, let the walls of Jericho fall. Free them all, Latu, Mumia.
Free them all, free them all. That Jericho movement gon' free them all. Behind these walls, behind them walls. That Jericho movement gon' free them all.
From before this place was a country, dissenters have had to pay by getting hanged at the gallows or by getting locked away. Rise up against the empire, try to break your chains, or in any way challenge the power of those who hold the reins. Railroad people to prison with charges pinched from air, till we meet your firing squads and your electric chairs. From before the FBI was formed to the surveillance state of now, you'll know it's the revolution. I'll tell you how when we free them all.
Free them all, let the walls of Jericho fall. Free them all, Latu, Mumia.
Free them all, free them all, free them all. That Jericho movement gon' free them all. Behind these walls, behind them walls. That Jericho movement gon' free them all. Justice, education, retribution, integrity. This coalition organized, it has the recipe. Honoring all those who led before and next to me. From the BTP to that AIM movement. That's the type of schooling that my pops was doing. Peace to all prisoners of dictator politics. We fight to abolish it, dedicate to stopping it. Free them all is the call, the movement's Jericho. Revolution not televised, but in stereo. I heard being woke is the first call to action. I've been doing that since before I knew fractions, Mr. President. On behalf of the residents, free Mumia and Leonard Peltier. Y'all been doing this for over 500 years. Free Bill Dunn and my Udo Oso Blanco. In solidarity, Sabah, till I go.
Free them all, let the walls of Jericho fall. Free them all, Latu, Move me up.
Free them all. Free them all. Free them all. That Jericho movement gon' free them all. Behind these walls, behind them walls. That Jericho movement gon' free them all.